hit to 40%, then that's going to be quite unfortunate. But what do you think the government can do right now that they're probably not doing? I know there's certain measures that they've put in place, but those are like stopgap measures, and most of them are quite timely. So either they're giving you, some form of palliative of a certain figure, or saying that they are stopping import duty for 6 months. But all of this, like I said, are stopgap measures. What can they do? Short term to ensure that our economy is thriving, and then long term to ensure that it's sustainable.
You see, yes, on short term, this issue of importation, is a double-edged sword. Temporarily, it may address the problem, cushion the problem, not addressing it, but it will cushion the effect of it temporarily. But it has far-reaching effect on the system and on the country as a whole. Because by the time you rely on that, you are now, literally killing your own domestic and, production. So I think what the government ought to do, we have said this several times, is to now look at these policies and retrace backward and see how do we adjust, where do we go from where we are now. But if we keep on insisting on the same measures, we have been trying them, and up to now, they have not yielded any positive result. On the contrary, they are taking us deeper and deeper into economic crisis. So I think we should rather look at it and see what are the problems, why do we have these problems, and now we try to address it.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move over to the Business NG, and there is a headline here that caught my attention, and it says, reduce spending, 3 Nigeria aircraft for sale. So we know that the president has a fleet of aircraft, some aircrafts and some helicopters as well. But now they're saying they want to sell about 3 of them. And I know, like in the news, over the past few weeks, they talked about having to purchase 2 new aircraft for the president. So with this, do you think maybe they're really listening to us and saying they need to cut some costs with them having to spend to sell some of this? Of course, this is reduced spending, having to sell and then buy. I don't know if it's going to be the same, or maybe they have to even pay more. But is it something that they understand that the Nigerians are saying, you cannot just keep buying stuff. We need you to also make certain sacrifices. Is this the government finally listening to us?
Yes. You see the way things are going, if we look, learn from the experience of our privatization, we know that even if they are going to sell some of them, they are going to auction them to a cheap and giveaway price. And some people who are there will just buy it for themselves. That is one thing. Secondly, this is a clear indication of our policy inconsistency. Initially, the previous government said that they are going to, take some of the planes and put them into, Nigerian Airways, so that now it will be a commercialized part of the Nigerian Airways that they are going to revive. And that has gone now. And the third dimension is, now we are talking of about, they said about 10 or 12 planes, about 6 planes, and then another 6 helicopters. I think this is extremely wastage. Look at countries that are so developed like UK. The Prime Minister doesn't have even a single plane. If he has anything, he goes, they go on public, transport, what do you call it? They go on commercial transportation. But here we are in the fleet of the presidency, we have about 10 to 12 aeroplanes, and yet we are thinking that we are going to buy 2 others, one for the president, one for the vice president. And sadly, you look at it, it is very insensitive. At this time, when the country is facing serious economic challenges, when the country and when the people are, facing serious multi dimensional hunger and poverty. And yet the leadership is taking up those buying claims for the presidency. And I think the spokesperson was saying that do they want the president to die, to have a crash? When you buy even new plane, it is not automatic that that one will not have problems. So nobody is saying that they should risk the life of the president, but at least the leadership should make sacrifice. They should not be calling on Nigerians to make sacrifice. And now they are engaged in such extravagancy that we are seeing now. I think that just a little while ago I told you the case of Argentina, where they cut such expenses and now they are addressing the economic problem. But here we are in the economic problem, we are in poverty, there is hunger, there is inflation, and yet we are more concerned with buying planes for the leaders.
Well, talking about, making sacrifices, cutting cost of governance, let's look at this one on the Business NG. Finally, it says, Abiodun issues executive orders to establish 2 new agencies, stop illegal MOU orders. Now, one of the agencies he has established is Ogun State Mineral Resources Development Agency, and the second is Ogun State Landscaping and Recreation Agency. My question now is, I know that there's been a lot of illegal mining in several states in the country. So maybe one of the reasons why he has issued this decree or this order is to ensure that every illegal MOU is done. Ogun State now takes over mining. And I know that in the 1999 Constitution, the responsibilities of the government is to ensure safety, welfare, good governance, peaceful coexistence between persons in the states, one of which also includes business clusters like mining as well. And I understand the fact that it is necessary, but when we're talking about having to cut the cost of governance, because with an agency like this, of course, you're going to have a DG, you're going to have people that have to be employed. You have to have buildings or where the offices are going to be located. So all of that's going to cost money, right? At this point, is this what we're supposed to be looking at in our nation?
Yeah, you see, we don't have to hide behind this issue of employment, the agencies. We have to regulate things like that. The way we allow it, the economic cost of it is very enormous for the country. So there has to be a certain regulation. We cannot say just because we are trying to have market economy, and then we allow anybody to operate the way, or any industry to operate the way it is. You see, this mining sector, if it is regulated, perhaps we'll decide the issue of diversifying our economy. It will take a lot of the crisis and problems that we are facing now economically. So we just allow it, and part of it is regulated, and this is what is happening. I think the way we do with like oil and other things, the government has to come. It doesn't mean that they have to take over, but there has to be regulation. It should not be free for all. Anybody will do as he likes in the area.
All right. This is where we have to wrap it up on this segment. We want to say thank you for coming, Professor. Always a pleasure reviewing the papers with you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll be speaking with Professor Kamilu Sani Fage. He's from the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. And we've just been taking global stories making headlines in our national dailies. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll be looking at our first hot topic, which talks about DACPA and people who are still receiving salaries while living abroad. Please stay with us.
Sometimes, it's not just the distance we travel. It's the gaps we close. It's not the things we buy. It's the memories we create. Sometimes it's beyond the places we go. It's the connections we make. Not just the things we taste. It's the taste of things to come. And it's never a question of if, but when. Because life is always just a bit better with American Express. Introducing the Access Bank American Express Gold Card and the Metal Platinum Card, now available through Access Bank.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. A hot topic says, Jakpa, Tinubu sanctions civil servants collecting salaries while living abroad. President Bola Tinubu has directed that all civil servants drawing salaries from the government after relocating abroad should be made to refund the money. The president also directed that the supervisors and department heads of the culprits must also be punished for aiding and abetting the fraud under their watch. Now, joining us to have a conversation and discuss this is Dr. Lomefo. He is a policy expert and intellectual psychologist, political psychologist as well. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. All right, so we're talking about people moving abroad, still taking money from Nigeria. So they're in one country, but then they're still getting funds coming from Nigeria, which is a country that they've left. I want to get your take on all of this and the president's speech saying that they have to even return the money as well.
Yes.
Hello, sir?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic.
You trailed off a moment ago.
Okay.
Those who live abroad and still collecting a salary in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well, is clearly a criminal act. There is no doubt about it. A criminal act. And they ought to refund the money. I think the directive of the president is in order. And like I have said, it's obviously a criminal act. Criminal. You cannot be collecting salary without doing the job. They have left the country. What that means is that they are no longer doing the job, and they are collecting money for a job they are not doing. That's the criminality. And they are not alone in this. They have supervisors. They have
people who they worked under when they were around in Nigeria. And those know that they are no longer here, they no longer work, and still prepare their salary. You know, it comes, if you fully unpack it, you will see that it has to do with the same post workers that we have often had in Nigeria. Many people are collecting salaries, but they are not working. So it is not just this Nigerians who have left the country. There are those in this country, within Nigeria here, who collect salaries, but they are not working. The president needs to look into that as well. You have also a phenomenon where some big politicians are on pension and still collecting salary. If you go to National Assembly, you will see former this, former that, former governor, former deputy governor, former ministers, and all that. They are collecting pensions as we speak, and also collecting salaries in National Assembly. Why should that be? You can't be collecting pension and collecting salary at the same time. So the president needs to launch full inquiry into this, because it is not just those who have left the country. Many who are in the country are employed in Nigeria, but they are not working. They don't even know where the offices are, but they are collecting salaries. Beyond that also, if you look at the issue of the ghost workers, billions of naira lost to ghost worker phenomenon. The question is, who is collecting the salary? They are not ghosts. Salaries are paid through banks. Somebody prepares the salary schedule, sends it to the bank, and money is withdrawn by somebody also. It's a whole criminal gang. So the president is, he has raised a very serious issue, but it's only an aspect of it. The president has to go the whole hog, deal with the issue of ghost workers. We need to know those who are collecting the money for people who do not exist in the banks. Somebody is signing the money out of the banks. Who are those? Because what you hear all the time is that they have discovered the ghost workers and they have sent them out. What happened to the money they collected? Those ghosts, those who have been representing those ghosts that have been collecting billions, who are they? Because in the banks where the salaries are paid into or through, they have records of those who are making withdrawals. So the president will have to extend the directive to accommodate those who have been collecting ghost workers' salaries. We need to know those who have been collecting the money. We need to know those banks that have been involved, because it's a whole syndicate, very serious. It happens at the federal, it happens at the state, it happens at the local government level. And billions go out of the treasury every month through this process. And nobody will just come and say that the ghost workers' salaries cannot be traced to some people. If the salaries can be traced to the people who criminally collected them from the banks, who criminally processed such salaries to the banks, all these people should be in jail. That's the truth. That's the way you deal with this. You don't just say that you have discovered the ghost workers and you have sent, you have blocked the gap. What happens to the money they took out of the system all the while? We must be serious for once. There has to be a comprehensive audit of what is going on. Let me even draw attention to something. You know, the NLC and DUC are talking about new minimum wage. Now, you have over-bloated civil service and public service, obviously over-bloated. So when you now talk about the ghost workers amongst them, it's pushing the needle up, because until you deal with them, you will not actually know the precise number of public servants you have in Nigeria. A significant number of public servants you have in Nigeria don't exist, and somebody is collecting their money. Such people must pay. Such people must not only refund, they need to be in jail. That is the way you deal with a situation like this.
Some things that I was going to talk about. So one of which is ghost workers, because the topic today is people who have moved abroad. But we know that even here in Nigeria, there are lots of people who have government jobs that never show up. In fact, they will say, that's why it's a government job now. I don't need to show up. I don't need to do anything. I will just get my money at the end of the month. So we know that this whole ghost workers, syndrome, if I can use that word, is a thing right now in Nigeria. And also, my question is, how did we get to this point where, because it's corruption, no matter how you want to look at it, it is corruption. And I know it's not good to say Nigeria is such a corrupt nation, but if we look at the reality of things or what people are doing, you can tell they were so corrupt. And there's just one person you just need to, just grease their palms a little bit, and then they will definitely write out all the papers for you, anything that makes you get that money. So if we're looking at that, and because another thing you highlighted was minimum wage, if the government is trying to cut costs, right, is it such a right time? I know there's nothing like a wrong time, but do you think this is the perfect time to start to look at this, saying we need to cut costs? Because if the minimum wage is going to be X amount, of course, the people who are not working should be taken out. So either you're showing up or you're showing up and not doing any work at all, shouldn't the government start to look at all of the agencies that they have and start to ensure that you need to show performance for you to be paid? What do you think?
That's the point I was trying to make, that perhaps up to 30% of public servants don't exist. They don't go to work. They simply collect the salaries. A good number of them are also classified as ghost workers. Why? Because they don't actually exist. There is what you call right sizing. Right sizing is the way to look at, in organizational psychology, the way to look at the point you have just made. It's very important that government undertakes very serious staff audit in all the ministries, departments, and agencies, so that we'll know who is really working. One practical way of doing this is that you bring out 3 months and pay by hand, so that first and foremost, you can identify those who are physically available doing the job. And in this era of ICT technology and everything, it's even much easier to handle. But you don't see seriousness exerted in all this. You don't. So you just carry out what you may call a symbolic gesture to create the impression that something serious is being done, whereas in actuality, nothing really, because the president is just talking about those who live abroad. How about those who live here? who are obviously in greater majority. Their number is much greater than the number of those who have left the country. How about those who are collecting pension and salary? This is public funds being siphoned. Excuse me. The president will have to go the whole hog. There has to be comprehensive staff audit of all the MTAs in the country so that we know precisely the actual number of people working. This needs to be done before they can even determine what should be appropriate as a minimum wage. Because government is paying a number of people who do not work. They need to leave the system, and those who have contrived it have to be punished. There is need to deal with those who are collecting ghost salaries. I keep saying this because there are ghost workers, but it is not ghosts that collect the salaries from the banks. They are human beings. So we need to identify those who have collected this money in the MDAs against names of people who do not exist, who do not work. There has to be comprehensive staff audit. Comprehensive staff audit must be done before you can get this properly cleaned up.
All right. So I know that for most organizations, there's always some form of appraisal that is being done for their staff. Is it that the government doesn't do any appraisal at all? Because how do you keep paying people that don't show up in the first place? So is it that there is no appraisal, there is no one-on-one sit-down to ensure that these people are performing and doing what they're supposed to do? I'm just wondering, because this is a major loophole in the system.
In Nigeria, performance and productivity are hardly the issue. If you recall, during COVID, level 1 to 12 officers were asked to stay away from offices.
Yeah.
And they stayed away for over 2 years. Even after the COVID, they still stayed at home for another 1 year. Now, work went on all the while. What does that tell you? It means that the work can actually continue without these people. You now ask yourself, what exactly are they doing to the point that their absence in 2 years is not felt by the system? Because if after COVID that lasted for about a year or so, level 1 to 12 in a civil service and public service still stayed away for another 1 year and nobody bothered about them. Don't forget, they were collecting salary throughout that period. They were being paid, but they weren't working. Even after COVID, 1 whole year, not doing anything, not reporting to office, they were collecting salaries. The point I'm trying to illustrate without the COVID experience that led to government asking level 1 to 12 to stay away from office, it shows that, look, a lot of people who are employed by government have no work to do. That's the truth. They have no work to do. If you go to the ministries, you will see staff that don't have desks, they have no chair to sit on. So you don't even blame them. They show up maybe once a week, no place to sit down, no schedule. So what is the meaning of that? What kind of economic environment is that? Where you employ somebody that has no role, no job specification, no role, no chair, no desk, but the person collects their salaries. Many of them just come to office towards the end of the month to inquire after the salary to be sure that he has gone to bank. And they will follow through, go to bank and pick their money. And that's it. You cannot continue this way. The country has to take productivity seriously. Staff audit roles that must be played by the staff. Nobody should be employed just for employment's sake. No, it's not done, because if you do that, in environmental psychology, it leads to what you call overmoney. When you have too many, persons crammed in one room, maybe a room that will take 3 to 4 staff, but you come there to see more than 10, 15 workers hanging around there. No meaningful work can take place in an environment such as that. So these are some of the things that needed to be really looked into. We need to reorganize the entire public sector, reorganize totally, and you see, it's not just only the workers alone. You have the MDAs that are duplicated. If you go to parastatals particularly, you see Nigeria has more than 700 parastatals. Why do you have to have that kind of number? Why do you duplicate these functions? Let me give you an example. What is the actual difference between EFCC, ICPC, and the Code of Conduct Bureau? This can be one body, and even become more effective. You have Federal Character Commission, you have a Public Complaints Commission. These are they can become one body. If you go to the petroleum sector, you will see so many agencies there duplicating functions of one another. So why don't you bring all these agencies that do similar work together under one strong, broad agency, and rather have DGs, executive secretaries all over the place? You have them as directors under one DG. You cut costs that way. The point I'm making is that apart from overmoney that is taking place in the public sector, overmoney here means you have too many staff, for too few roles, and they create overmoney. And overmoney here means too many hands on one thing, too many hands. They will spoil it. And that's what has been going on. If you go to the offices, you see that there is no seriousness. People come maybe once or twice a week. Those who come don't really do much, if they do at all. So you need to really reorganize the whole thing. The president's position is very fundamental. We need to go after those who take money they haven't worked for, but it must go beyond those who have the Japan, as we say now, to wherever in Nigeria. He has to spread the dragnet to include those who are in Nigeria, those who shouldn't be collecting salaries. We need to weed them off the system so that you will have just the right size of manpower required to do the work, then you pay them properly.
Yeah.
Part of the problem, part of the reason the government is shouting that they cannot pay more than 62,000 naira is because of the bloated workforce. That's the problem. So if you have 5 million public servants in Nigeria, perhaps what you need may be about 3 million. That's the truth. If these measures are taken,
all right.
What you need is, so rather than paying 5 million people 62,000 naira, why don't you have the right size of staff?
Pay them well.
Yes, they are paid in well, paid in something not less than 100,000, so that the work can make sense. But that is not what we are doing at the moment. Government is not addressing the issues the way they should be addressed. That's my point. We need to become a bit more serious about productivity.
Yeah. All right. So I know that the president has said they have to refund the money. So I'm wondering how, they want to go about that, getting the monies back. One, and for the people who have aided and abetted this fraud, as he said, the people who have been signing those papers, how can we ensure that they are really being punished? Because if we're saying we want to fight corruption out, we really need to look at this and make an example of such people, so that others who are even thinking of getting into that in the first place would be scared of doing that. So how do we ensure that we're weeding out these people, refunding the money back to Nigeria? Just in 1 minute, as we have to wrap up now.
Yeah, well, it's going to be difficult, but it is not impossible. Do the audit and know how much they really owe and all that, and make it public. If they don't refund it today, they will do that tomorrow. Then you also publish those who have been abetting these people, because without them, these people that live overseas now will not be collecting salaries. You dismiss them and don't stop there. Apart from taking them out of the public service system, you follow them through the courts and make sure that they go to jail for the criminal act. And you extend the same thing to those who have been preparing ghost salaries and collecting ghost salaries. They all have to go to jail if you want this phenomenon to stop. That's my take.
All right. Thank you so much. This is where we have to end it here on this segment. Dr. Law, we want to say thank you for coming.
The pleasure is always mine. Have a blessed day.
Same. You too, sir. All right, so we're speaking with Dr. Law Mefo. He's a social and forensic psychologist, and we've been discussing the fact that the president has sanctioned civil servants collecting salaries while living abroad. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll be looking at our second hot topic that talks about SERAP asking the World Bank for accountability. Please stay with us.
My name is Adejoke Lasisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet 3R. As Planet 3R, we convert textile and plastic waste into eco-friendly products. The motivation actually came from a rural community in Ibadan here. Whenever it rains, the whole place, people will not be able to go inside the community. If it rains overnight, people will not be able to go to school, they will not be able to go to work. Anytime the water now goes away, you now realize a lot of waste. And I was like, this is actually the root cause of this problem, improper waste management system. Then I look at it that, what can we do to solve this problem? And that was how I started using the weaving skill that I've acquired from my mom since I was 9 years old. Then I started using it to weave those waste to now make sure that we now convert them into beautiful items like bags, shoes, even clothing. I actually participated at Womenpreneur Season 3, that was 2021. One of the things I really gained at that time was business development. It's not just about the talent now or having to know how to convert the waste or having the idea, but to be able to put it into a successful business. I really appreciate what Access Bank is doing for entrepreneurs. Let us now say women now, because most of the time women don't really have much of these advantages. I love the fact that there's an initiative for women. I want to encourage you to make sure that you go and apply honestly. Your life will not remain the same again.
whatever we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 and they pay.
The pandemic opened the world to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. You know, when they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You know, you just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
With us, you're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. This hot topic says 121.6 trillion naira debt. SERAP asks panel to hold World Bank accountable. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sent a complaint to the World Bank Inspection Panel, urging the panel to probe allegations of corruption in the spending of the loans and other funding facilities obtained by the federal government and Nigeria 36 state governors and to review the implementation of all bank-funded projects by successive governments since 1999. Now, joining us to have a conversation and discuss this is Samson Ajibade, is a criminologist and security researcher, is on the phone with us, and also is Kolawole Oluwadare, is the Deputy Director of SERAP. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. All right, so I'll start with you, Kolawole, because I mean, you are the Deputy Director for SERAP. Just bring us up to speed on your request and how it has gone so far.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
SERAP's request to the investigation panel is predicated on the volume loans that Nigeria has obtained from the World Bank and the lack of any developmental index to measure the significance of such loans. And this panel is also set up by the World Bank agreement, articles of agreement, that allows this body to receive complaints from either citizens or even third parties and beneficiary countries that has taken World Bank facilities. So in the instance of Nigeria, given the various volumes of loans that we've obtained from the World Bank since the 1970s, we do not see any credible use of those funds. And that also includes the social development impact assessment on the lives of the people. Poverty continues to grow. Nigerians day in, day out, hear about these huge millions or billions in recent times of dollars obtained for the World Bank. And that also brings to question, would the World Bank have any sort of mechanisms that measures and ensures that these funds are used transparently and accountably? If not, it simply makes the World Bank complicit in making Nigerians poorer, because the loans that got them they are more likely to end up in private pockets. The Nigerian people are poorer for it, and ultimately the debt burden ensures that Nigerians remain poor. And that is why we've written these complaints to the panel, hoping that the panel would examine this. And as part of the powers of the panel, they also have the right to visit such countries to confirm and ascertain the veracity of these complaints. Ultimately, the aim is to hold the Nigerian government accountable to the loans they've collected over the years and perhaps the future loans that they are likely to collect.
Wondering why the World Bank still dish out loans, especially if, you know, they get reports like this that they are not using the money the way it's supposed to be. Because, I mean, if we look at it, you can't really say for sure that we have these projects or we have certain infrastructure or we're trying to revamp our healthcare system. So why do you think the World Bank still gives loans to Nigeria, even though there is nothing to show for it?
I really do not know what would be the motive of the World Bank to continue to make these facilities available to Nigeria in the absence of either any physical development to measure against the loans, and even the lack of transparency and accountability in the use of these funds. And this is not the first advocacy in this instance that is from SERAP, targeted at the World Bank. At the end of COVID-19, we did the same thing. We did get a response from the World Bank then, but our own findings and independent audits that we did for the use of COVID-19 funds show that most of it, again, ended up in private pockets. I don't know what the motive of the World Bank is, but there are various situations of people that call the World Bank complicit in ensuring that underdeveloped countries remain underdeveloped, which is why this kind of initiative is a test for the World Bank to really prove that it is not complicit in making the poor of Nigeria poorer and ensure that at the disadvantage of the privileged few who are in public office.
All right, I'll come over to you now, Samson. I mean, listening to what Kolawole has said, and in fact, there's been conspiracy theories that the World Bank tries to give out loans to underdeveloped countries to ensure that, you know, they still do their bidding, they still do whatever they say. And one question I've always asked is, at what point do we get independent of the World Bank or maybe even the IMF as well? But if we're taking monies from them, of course, we cannot really get our independence per se. So why do you think the World Bank is hell-bent on ensuring that we have these loans? Could it be just because they want us to be submissive and it's whatever they say that we have to follow?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. The thing is this, we need to note that the World Bank is dominated by capitalist nations. And also about capitalism or capitalist nations, they are just all about the interest of a particular class of people. And this class of people would want the class that is below them, which is the third world countries. They would want them to be subservient to them. They would want them to always do whatever they say. So they will use all technicalities, everything possible, principles. In fact, one of the best principles to tell the world that they are even helping these nations. But it would only take consensus citizens, enlightened citizens, citizens who have national consciousness to hold and call out their government to say enough is enough. This country, this body, the World Bank would continuously give loans to third world countries or underdeveloped countries. Why? Because they would want them to do whatever they say and even implement the policies they want them to implement. The more we keep collecting loans from these people, I tell you, the weaker our currencies will become.
How do we get our independence?
We've had loans, we've gotten loans from these nations, yet our economy is still the way it is. I, as an individual, if I keep giving loans to someone, to a particular person, and the person could not account for the previous, would I give loans next time to the person? Maybe I will be skeptical, or I will try hold back. But if these people, if they keep giving out loans, it means there is a conspiracy, like you said earlier, and the conspiracy is all about gains, the gains that belong to a particular group of people, a particular class of people. The reason I said earlier that World Bank is dominated by capitalist nations, and it is all about their interest. Now, SERAP was founded in 2004, and from the statement I read, it said that SERAP has been issuing complaints, submitting complaints to the World Bank, consistently submitting complaints to the World Bank. Yet, what has the World Bank? What have they done? What have they done to hold our leaders? What have they done to withhold back to hold back loans, to say, okay, come and account for the ones transparency and accountability of even the World Bank? If there is no conspiracy in it, I don't think we should keep getting loans from these people approved expressly. And however, when we say Nigeria has 121.67 trillion, on my side, I will add an X. I will say 121.67 plus X, because every nation, every other developed nation like Nigeria, every Nigerian leader always have pending requests to get loans from foreign countries. So the reason I would add is in 3 months' time, it would have become like probably 130, 140. The reason we need to even add is the interest of a class of people which dominates the World Bank. That is just the reason they keep giving loans even when we could show nothing for it.
Okay, so Kolawole, I mean, you just heard what Samson has said, and he said SERAP has written to the World Bank so many times. But I wanted to know, have you ever gotten any response with your requests?
Yes, it would depend on what you consider a response. A response would be a positive action based on the asks and the requests that were made on the World Bank. We are yet to get that. But we've gotten requests in the past, more than twice, I believe, by way of correspondence on the World Bank, acknowledging receipt of the complaints and saying that they are looking into what we've said, and also providing some explanation, which does not really satisfy the specific asks and the requests that we've made of the World Bank at various times. Like I mentioned earlier, for instance, the use of COVID-19 funds and the loans that were disbursed with the state governments. At that time, we had asked the World Bank to exercise restraint to hold on to giving governors the loan. And of course, they did not listen, that they disbursed the loans. So we are yet to get a positive response by way of action, which is why this instant initiative we are very positive that we'll get a positive response. The inspection panel is an agency set up also as part of the World Bank to be objective in its analysis and to ensure that it holds the World Bank accountable to the World Bank's own operational guidelines, which includes also transparency and accountability, and the assessment of the socioeconomic impact of the use of those loans by those who are taking the loans. So we are hopeful that this time the inspection panel would take the complaints, investigate. And the aim is not to, the aim rather is to hold the World Bank responsible so that the World Bank can also hold the Nigerian leaders accountable for the loans it has disbursed to the Nigerian government and perhaps the ones it will do in the future. All of this is to benefit the average Nigerian who these loans are being collected in his or her name and who has seen nothing to benefit from it.
If you don't get that positive response you're looking for, because I mean, if you're saying that you've had correspondence in the past but nothing has been done, so what happens next?
I wouldn't want to say that we would have to resort to litigation. I remember we had cause to discuss with some of our lawyers in the past. But hopefully, this will be one of those public interest transparency initiatives that would not lead to some sort of public interest litigation. So that is why conversations like this, as provided by the organization, platforms like this, is ultimately to make the Nigerian citizens understand the nuances and the basics, the concept of good governance underpinning this kind of advocacy so that they can own it. Remember that every member of the National Assembly that approves the loan taken by the president represents constituencies in Nigeria. And the same for the state governors who have also taken loans. And they are constituents who have voted for them, who, of course, they represent in the National and State Assembly. So the aim is that people understand these issues well enough, beyond the rather narrow prisms of politics, tribe, and religion, to take this up and then to drive it until the government does what the people want. And that also means the World Bank. The World Bank also, in representing, in dealing with the Nigerian government, should understand that also, and that is part of the operational guidelines of the World Bank, mind, that the interest of the people of that country is paramount. And that is why the World Bank needs to be held responsible, while also our leaders are also responsible by the actions of the citizens to ensure that these loans are either not taken if they are not needed or they're not going to be judiciously used, or if they are taken, there must be mechanisms that ensure that they are actually used for what they are meant for. But antecedent has shown that that does not happen there for a long time. Since the 1970s, the World Bank has approved over 190 projects, I think 107 projects for Nigeria, at a cost presently of $36 billion. Of course, that cost has grown with interest from that time. How can you explain that to the average Nigerian on the street? He doesn't see it. Everything is expensive. More than 40 million Nigerians are poor. So how can you marry that? And so again, the aim is that people should own this and be able to maybe perhaps grow this with that critical mass that will bring about that much needed change.
Samson, so how can the citizens, because I mean, you are someone who likes accountability, I want to believe, so how can the citizens start to play their own role where we demand this accountability, not just from our own, not just from the federal government or our own politicians, but even from the World Bank, who's also dishing out these loans?
The thing is this, I have always said on different platforms that in a nation where the masses are unconscious or politically unconscious, the leaders will continue to behave in an arbitrary manner. This will continue as long as our political consciousness is very low. SERAP has been trying for Nigeria, but Nigerians on their side, do they even appreciate what SERAP does? Because the level of consciousness is very low here. On the other hand, a lot of Nigerians are also waiting to say, oh, this chop make I chop tendency or mentality is also affecting us. They will say, oh, when you discuss with some Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians say, oh, Oga, you say chop your own. When it's your time? So this kind of mentality wouldn't make us want to hold our leaders accountable because we are also prospective, maybe awaiting looters. This is one of the reasons we wouldn't want to hold our leaders accountable. Now, how do we hold them accountable? Speaking of, it is not all about taking to streets. It's not all about any major issue in Nigeria here. It would only last on social media for 3 to 7 days. And that but if you switch to other nations, other developed nations, where the level of consciousness among their citizens is very high, you would see that for months they would keep discussing that matter. The youth would rise, they will keep calling them out, they will keep using different channels. But here in Nigeria, what we even discuss may not even have any impact on the economy of Nigeria. So what Nigerian youth, the Nigerian people, what we should begin to do now is to sift what we discuss. You can't tell me what to discuss, but as one who wants this country to be great, we should begin to sift what we discuss. On the other hand, our lawmakers, how many of us even know our representatives? When they go to Abuja, they only come home during Salah period, during the Yuletide, during festive period. Now, how many of us even know their offices? How many of us know the channels through which
Good
we
question.
hold them accountable?
Yeah. I think it's important that we hold them accountable, to be honest. But quickly, in 30 seconds, I want to ask you, Kolawole, how can we participate in this work that SERAP is doing? How can we just help SERAP as well to ensure that voices are being amplified?
Thank you very much. I really wish I could give you practical steps, but I do not think that would help. I think I would rather speak to the mindset that would not make such things possible. So I think 3 things that have impeded the consciousness of the people to hold public officers to account has been tribe, politics, and religion. Once we can do away with that and engage with the demand for good governance sake in a democratic setting, I am very sure that would be the beginning of progress.
All right. I hope that, kudos to what SERAP is doing. I hope that everyone tries to put their hands on the plow and we start to demand for what we want. We demand for accountability and we demand for transparency. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. It was lovely discussing this with you. Thank you. All right, we've been speaking with Samson Ajibade. He's a criminologist and security researcher. And we're also speaking with Kolawole Oluwadare, who's a deputy director of SERAP. And we're just discussing the fact that SERAP is asking the World Bank about the loans and just wanting them to be more accountable. This is where we have to wrap it up on the show today. We want to say thank you for having the breakfast. We'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Rome Paulson. Have an amazing day.
Hello and welcome. I am Justin Akadonye and this is the news update. There was apprehension at Sunshine Homes Estate located in the Lukugoma area of the FCT Abuja after an attack by some heavily armed men. The gunmen also killed a retired brigadier general identified as Uwem Harold Udokwele during the early morning attack. Police authorities in the area have since confirmed the attack. Now, the statement signed by the SP Josephine Ade, the police public relations officer, noted that the Commissioner of Police Ben F. Igwe has ordered a discreet investigation into the circumstances surrounding this regrettable event. Now, in a swift response to the tragic attack on the Sunshine Homes Estate that resulted in the deaths of retired Brigadier General, the Commissioner of Police for the FCT, Ben F. Igwe, has ordered an immediate and thorough investigation. The incident occurred around 3 a.m. on Saturday when armed robbers invaded the estate. Now, the deceased, who is retired from the Nigerian Army, was fatally injured during the robbery. In a press statement released, CP Ben F. Igwe expressed his profound condolences to the family of the deceased. He assured them and the general public that every effort would be made to apprehend and bring to justice those responsible for the heinous attack. At least 7 persons have been killed in a fresh bandit attack on Maidabino village in Danmusa local government area of Katsina State. The attack, according to an eyewitness, saw the abduction of an unspecified number of persons, mostly women and children, who had been taken to a nearby forest. The eyewitness told reporters on Sunday that the hoodlums operated for about 3 hours after invading the village at about 10 p.m., shooting sporadically to scare the residents. He said that those killed by the hoodlums were set ablaze. The police spokesman in the state, ASP Abubakar Sadiq, also confirmed the incident to our correspondent. Now, according to ASP Sadiq, investigation is currently ongoing as further development will be communicated in due course. Staying with security matters, unidentified gunmen have kidnapped a police orderly and driver who were working with a respected royal father in Rivers State. The victims were abducted on Saturday at the residence of the traditional ruler, His Royal Highness Chief Colonel Ihunwo, around Eagle Island. Now, Ihunwo is the paramount ruler of the Rumu Elechi community in Port Harcourt area. Now, God's Time Ihuno, and executive member of the Diobo Vigilante and chief security officer to the Nkbolu Ororo, confirmed that the incident occurred around 8 p.m. He alleged that the intent of the kidnapping was the traditional ruler condemning their attempt to abduct the community leader. Now, the PRO of the State Police Command, Grace Iringe Koko, and ASP also confirmed the incident. Troops of 6th Brigade of the Nigerian Army Sector 3 Operation Wellstroke have apprehended an individual posing as Army recruitment official in Taraba State who was attempting to scam aspiring military candidates. Now, this operation followed a visit by the Commander 6th Brigade, Brigadier General Kingsley Chidebere Owa, to the recruitment center at 114 Battalion Jimilari to assess the ongoing process and ensure its transparency. The imposter was arrested as he tried to collect money from hopeful recruits, promising them guaranteed entry into the Nigerian army. Now, the swift action of the troops thwarted his plans, protecting the candidate from falling victims of fraud. During his visit, the Brigadier General addressed the candidate, assuring them of a fair and transparent recruitment process. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has busted a shrine in Igov community, Benin City, Edo State, that was being used to store illicit drugs. Operatives discovered a specially constructed concealed storage space within the wall of the shrine, covered by wallpapers and fetish objects. The NDLEA seized a total of 8.743 kilograms of various illicit substances from the hidden compartment, including methamphetamine, loud Colorado, and strong strains of cannabis. 2 women, Sonia Ezumezu and Risikatu Tijani, were arrested during the operation after the large black snake guarding the shrine was subdued. Also, the NDLEA inquired 75 convictions and 35 pending cases before the Federal High Court in Ilorin.
The report covers the activities of the Command, National Drug Enforcement Agency, between January and June 2024. During the period under review, we've had about 363 arrests, comprising 317 males and 46 females within the period, which a total seizure of 495.166 kilograms of narcotics and psychotropic substances. We have 61.5 liters of squishes and over 50 liters of codeine-based syrup. Within this period, the Command has secured 75 convictions and 35 pending cases.
Ibrahim announced the Command's partnership with the state government for a train-the-trainer program for school teachers to promote sustainable drug use policies.
The Command is only looking forward to any program they are having. They already have 1 or 2 persons there that can actually carry out the sensitization for them.
Because one of the major drivers of the menace is lack of information. Some basic information which people need to know. They don't have access to the information. That is why people get lured easily into taking drugs.
A raging fire has gutted the Christ Embassy Church headquarters in Ikeja area of Lagos, destroying property worth millions of naira. According to eyewitnesses, the blaze started around 8 a.m. but was quickly contained by the prompt response of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service and the Lagos State Emergency Management Authority last summer. Fortunately, no life was lost in the incident. Worshippers who had gathered for the weekly service immediately fled to safety as the fire raged. Now, the Director General of LASEMA, Dr. Femi Oke Osoyitolu, confirmed the incident and urged calm, stating that the fire had been extinguished by 10 a.m. Now, the cause of the devastating fire remains under investigation.
Moving in there with all the key stakeholders that are important in managing emergency in the state. And you can see that we've curtailed the spread of the fire. We've put up the fire in certain aspects, and we've started conducting what we call secondary survey in emergency. And very soon, everything will be completed in terms of operation. We have to do a sort of investigations because we have to look at things holistically before we could say this is the etiology that leads to this. But the most important thing is that we have curtailed the fire. We will soon put up the fire, and we started looking at the secondary challenges, and I'm sure we are going to be on top of it. There is no mortality, there is no morbidity, and you can see that the recovery aspect of it is seamless. The response time was 10 minutes, and by 10 minutes, all the actors were on the ground. So when it occurred and they informed us, we moved in there.
Meantime, President and founder of the Love World Incorporated, better known as Christ Embassy, Pastor Chris Oyakhilome, has said that the fire incident at the church's headquarters was not an accident, but an avenue for bigger and better things. He said this during a live Sunday service at the church's campground, Asheshe. He said nothing happens in the life of a child without a reason. The man of God says a bigger, better, and more glorious one will be built, and the devil will lick his wound. The men of the Lagos Fire Service were already on ground to rescue the situation at the time of the report, and no life was reported to have been lost. Away from all of that, the Association of Local Government of Nigeria has criticized the National Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE, for planning a protest against the police barricade of 23 local government council secretariats in Rivers State. The association has asked NULGE to call off the planned strike and has urged local government council staff to refrain from participating in any protest organized by their greedy leaders. End of quote. Now, this comes after the NULGE president in Rivers State, Clifford Paul, issued a 4-day ultimatum to the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, demanding that he ordered his men to vacate the 23 local government officials councils that they have barricaded.
We have here is a situation where the governor is is inept, inexperienced, and is now open to all kinds of advice, including from people who want to benefit from the system. So we are calling on the national president of Nolgate to call his members in Rivers State to order. We are also calling local government council officials, staff, to refrain from any protest that their greedy leaders are going to drag them into. We are also aware that this illegal caretaker committee, as constituted by the governor, has gone ahead to make all kinds of announcements, including dissolution of standing committees have been appointed by us. All of those committees are still intact. We have enjoined our appointees to continue to discharge the functions I've given them by those who are democratically elected, those whom they've given their mandates. The issues are at various levels of court. As law-abiding citizens, we are going to await all that the courts will say. So we are not going to allow the police to be blackmailed. What the Nigerian police, albeit that they have stopped us from accessing our councils to discharge our civic obligations, well, but we are happy with the police. We welcome what the Inspector General of Police has done in order to avert any further breakdown of law and order.
In a related development, the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress TUC in Rivers State have suspended their planned protest over the continued police blockade at the local government area secretariat. This decision came after reports that some individuals plan to incite violence under the guise of being Labour Union members. At the joint press briefing in Port Harcourt, the NLC chairman Alex Agwanwo urged the police to apprehend anyone who protests in the name or the union's name today. He advised Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees NOGE members who had initially proposed a protest to wait for further directives from the Labour centers.
Organized labor is non-partisan. We are political to the extent that our fundamental human right is not violated by any politician or anybody. In this instance, our ask is that the Inspector General of Police should demobilize his men and open up the locked local government offices to enable our workers who work in the various local governments to go to work. Because we see the action that police has taken as violation of our fundamental human rights, where our members are no more allowed.
Impacted affiliate unions were advised, especially the Nigerian of Local Government Employees NOGE, is hereby directed to remain on standby until further notice for likely lawful industrial action by the organized labor. We call on the Nigerian police to be vigilant, to arrest and prosecute any miscreant found to be breaching the unfettered peace of Rivers State. We support the ongoing joint strides of His Excellency, Sassoon Fubaches RS, to promote a peaceful and prosperous Rivers State.
Now, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sent a complaint to the World Bank Inspection Panel, urging them to probe allegations of corruption into the spending of the loans and other funding facilities obtained by the federal government and the 36 state governors, and to review the implementation of all bank-funded projects by successive governments since 1999. SERAP urged the inspection panel to determine the extent to which bank management has followed or is following the World Bank's operational policies and procedures applicable to the design, appraisal, and implementation of all bank finance projects in Nigeria. SERAP said, quote, Nigerians are rarely informed and meaningfully and effectively consulted about several of these loans, facilities, and bank-funded projects, end of quote. Now, the federal government has filed a 6-count charge against World Property Development Company Limited for tax evasion in an effort to strengthen compliance. The Federal Inland Revenue Service filed the suit on behalf of the government, accusing the company of understating tax returns, false declaration of earnings, and failing to deduct and remit taxes. The federal government is listed as the complainant in the suit, with World Property Development Company Limited and 9 individuals named as defendants. With the Edo State governorship election just 90 days away, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has yet to substitute the Labour Party's deputy governorship candidate in the state. The LP has protested the final list of candidates released by the commission, insisting it met all legal requirements to replace its candidate. However, the party remains hopeful that INEC will replace the deputy candidate, Faith Oluyinka Alofohai, with Barrister Yusuf Kadri before the election, potentially through a court order. According to INEC's election timetable, political parties had until April 15 to replace or withdraw candidates to allow for substitutions. About 50 members of the House of Representatives from different parts of Nigeria and political parties known as Concerned Federal Lawmakers for Peace and Security in the Southeast have appealed to President Bola Tinubu to invoke Section 174 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and Section 107, subsection 1 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, ACJA 2015, for the release of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, from detention to aid the restoration of peace in the Southeast. The lawmakers, who hail from different political parties and geopolitical zones across the nation, appealed to the president to commence a peace initiative to address all issues and challenges bedeviling the Southeast region of the country. Now, Professor Breno Bringo, a prominent Brazilian activist and member of the Eco-Social and Intercultural Pact of the South, has emphasized the importance of shifting the ecological and political discourse on energy transition to the local level. As nations in the global South strive to tackle the inequities of eco-social transition, Professor Bringo advocates engaging grassroots communities in this crucial dialogue. He spoke alongside other editors during a public presentation of a book, The Geopolitics of Green Colonialism, Global Justice and Eco-Social Transition. Details in this report. The Green New Deal policies in Europe and North America, touted as solutions to climate change, have instead given rise to new environmental injustices and a form of green colonialism, undermining their sustainability claims. The dominance of the global energy economy has undermined the ability of developing nations to pursue self-determined strategies that would improve the quality of life for their citizens.
And don't only denounce it. They had sent in it's just like the science fiction that they put something in our mind that today, the way we are behaving makes that we get dependent to these countries. And to fight against this, I think this new generation is willing to have a change. And you can see it is broader than Senegal, even if the ways are different. Go to Guinea, you go to Mali, you go to Niger. These 3 countries have said, we are fed up with this former colonial.
And then next to
the public presentation and dialogue around the book, The Geopolitics of Green Colonialism, is lending a voice that has been conspicuously absent from the broader debate.
As sovereign countries, if you look to African countries and to Latin America, we are suffering the impacts of this new energy transition, this new geopolitical imaginarium that says that they need lithium to have their energy transition in the global north. And in this meanwhile, we are seeing the growing of inequalities, the growing of poverty in the global south. So on the one hand, we have to share the impacts of this. And on the other hand, we also have to foster the alternatives.
Miriam Lang, a professor of environment and sustainability and co-editor of the book, alongside the director of the ecological think tank for the health of Mother Earth Foundation, HOMEF, are condemning the situation. Both Lang and the HOMEF director, who both support the adoption of clean energies, argue that this situation would amount to a new form of colonialism.
I hope it can become a tool for people in Africa and in Nigeria to begin to deliberate and to discuss the alternatives at the order of the day and their own capacities, which are often underestimated, to overturn this critical situation we are facing.
When we're talking about green energy, we're talking also about the same extractivist model where certain minerals are called critical minerals, transition minerals, like cobalt, lithium, and the rest. And then if they are being mined in a way that is not in consonance with the best interests of nature and communities, then of course it means that the people are still going to suffer the way they're suffering in the oil fields. Then secondly, if we're having a system of maybe production of setting of solar power installations that occupy a vast quantity of land, communities may still be dispossessed. And then from what we've seen so far in some places, including countries in Africa, such installations do not necessarily provide energy for the local communities.
The writers use case studies from the global south to analyze green colonialism in its material, political, and symbolic forms. They explore interconnected changes in the globalized economy and propose alternative paths towards a sustainable and equitable future. You're still watching the news on Plus TV Africa. Time now for a quick break to join us again.
My name is Ade Jokela Sisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet 3R. At Planet 3R, we convert textile and plastic waste into eco-friendly products. The motivation actually came from a rural community in Ibadan here. Whenever it rains, the whole place, people will not be able to go inside the community. If it rains overnight, people will not be able to go to school, they will not be able to go to work. Anytime the water now goes away, you now realize a lot of waste. And I was like, this is actually the root cause of this problem, improper waste management system. Then I look at it that, what can we do to solve this problem? And that was how I started using the weaving skill that I've acquired from my mom since I was 9 years old. Then I started using it to weave those waste to now make sure that we now convert them into beautiful items like bags, shoes, even clothing. I actually participated at Womenpreneur Season 3, that was 2021. One of the things I really gained at that time was business development. You know, it's not just about the talent now or having to know how to convert the waste or having the idea, but to be able to put it into a successful business. I really appreciate what Access Bank is doing for entrepreneurs. Let us now say women now, because most of the time women don't really have much of these advantages. I love the fact that there's an initiative for women. I want to encourage you to make sure that you go and apply honestly. Your life will not remain the same again.
Business news now. The delivery date for the completion of $700 million Obiafu-Obricom-Oben gas pipeline project, popularly known as OB3, has been shifted from March 2024 to August as the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited announced its readiness to complete the facility. Recall that on February 28 this year, it was reported that the federal government declared that the project would be completed in March, which was commenced in 2016. It announced this in February through the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ikpe Ikpo, at the 7th Nigeria International Energy Summit in Abuja, where the minister described the OB3 gas pipeline as one of the biggest transmission systems in both Nigeria and Africa. But in the statement issued in Abuja by the spokesperson of the NNPC, Olufemi Shoneye, the oil firm declared that the project would be completed in August. The group CEO of NNPC, Milikari, confirmed this during an inspection tour of the OB3 pipeline River Niger crossing operation at Abo Delta State. Now, the River Niger crossing operation has been the major impediment to the completion of the strategic OB3 gas pipeline for over 3 years. That's according to the NNPC. And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, on X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channels at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV African Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on Limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Moody's, the global ratings agency, says Nigeria's interest spending on debt could consume up to 36% of the federal government's revenue this 2024. In its review of the Nigerian economy, Moody's maintained the country's credit outlook as positive, citing the sustenance and reforms instituted in 2023. Nigeria's public debt increased by 24.3 trillion naira to 121.67 trillion naira at the end of the first quarter of 2024, driven by the depreciation of the naira. The domestic debt component stood at 65.65 trillion naira, while external debt was 56.02 trillion naira. During the same period, the federal government reportedly spent around $1.12 billion on foreign debt service, accounting for approximately 70% of the total foreign exchange outflow. Moody's explained that the hawkish monetary policy stance of the Central Bank of Nigeria has pushed interest rates for local borrowing by the federal government from an average of 12.8% in 2023 to around 19% in the first 5 months of this year. This, in turn, is expected to increase interest payment by around 1% of GDP in the year under review. Also coming up, in response to the economic hardship, the number of workers who made withdrawals from their voluntary pension contributions increased by 87.6% in the fourth quarter of this year, from 694 in the previous quarter to 1,302. Now, the value of these withdrawals also rose by 160% to 3.9 billion naira, with 1,259 of the withdrawals coming from the private sector and 43 from the public sector. We'll keep our eyes on these and more on the show today. Welcome to Business Insights on Plus TV Africa. I'm your host, Justin Akadonye. Now, the media plays a crucial role in shaping public opinion and disseminating information about agricultural biotechnology. As the Director General of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, stated during a sensitization workshop for Lagos-based senior editors, the media's part in communicating this complex topic is vital for fostering public understanding, dialogue, and informed decision-making. Let's take that report. I will come back to discuss some more.
Gathered at this hall are senior journalists. This event, put together by the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa, OFAB, an initiative of the African Agricultural Technology, is to accurately educate them on issues of biotechnology and biosafety so that decisions by policymakers are effectively understood and communicated to the public.
Biotechnology, as many of you know, is a transformative field that has the potential to address some of the most pressing issues facing our nation and the world at large. From agriculture to healthcare, from environment conservation to industrial innovation, biotechnology is at the forefront of driving this positive change.
In recent years, biotechnology products and technologies have been used to fight diseases and reduce harm to the environment. Since its establishment in 2001, NABDA has strived to live up to its mandate. The DG CEO of the National Biosafety Management Agency, Dr. Agnes Assan.
It's a thing of joy that OFAB is bringing about this program to help, to educate, to help, to inform the press about what actually agri-biotechnology is about. You're talking about GMOs. You're talking about food, feed, process.
So in 2001, Nigeria established the National Biotech Development Agency to promote, commercialize, and regulate biotechnology. Actually, not really regulate, just to promote, carry out research and development, and coordinate, facilitate, biotechnology activities.
Nigeria through the efforts of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, is leading this space in Africa, and it's something that journalists and all the people involved in mass communication should come together and support this.
The senior editors were also educated on why they should focus on agricultural biotechnology. The NABDA boss explains that to enhance mass adoption and sustainability of the technology in Nigeria, the agency developed modular and portable biodigester system that was highly optimized to enhance process efficiency. Justin Akado.
All right, welcome back as we dive into the issues for today. Let's start with some golden news, as it were. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, announced that Nigeria's gold bar transactions have boosted the country's foreign reserve assets by over $5 million. Alake made this disclosure the value of the naira against other currencies. Alake added that the gold bars were sourced from artisanal and small-scale gold miners and that the transactions have added approximately 6 billion naira to the economy. We should get the insights now of Mukhtar Mohammed, an expert in international finance and economics, in this discussion. Thanks for joining us, Mukhtar. Mukhtar, can you hear us?
Thank you for having me, Justin.
All right, let's start with what I've called the golden news, the announcement that was made by the federal government. It seems to be some news to the government, as the gold bars, according to the minister, is actually boosting our foreign reserves. Let's start from there and get your candid reaction.
Well, this is what continuity can cause. If you remember, this was something that started with the Buhari administration under the then minister, Kayode Fayemi. But I think after he left to become the governor of Ekiti State, we didn't see that vibrancy that we would have thought the solid mineral sector would have given us by now. So we saw a slowdown, and Dele Alake have taken it to the next level with what he has done thus far to make sure that we see an actualization of that dream. Remember, the Kayode Fayemi position was to see the situation whereby they would add up to like 15 to 20% to the Nigerian GDP. But now we've seen maybe not the way he thought it would be, but again, it's better commensurate to what we had before now. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully, we'll begin to see a lot of activities in that space. If you listen to that, if you read through that report also, yes, it also stated that these are smaller, for smaller companies, from artisans, and yes, so you know that we have challenge with insurgency. There's been illegal mining in some of this area. We saw what happened in Niger State, where illegal mining caused the death of a lot of people. So I think what we need to up the game, I think $5 million is very small, but again, it's a good starting point. And to clear the air on that, that money has not found its way into the foreign reserve yet. They say they are discussing with the Central Bank of Nigeria to make sure that we see that fund find its way into the FX, and they'll be selling it to CBN very soon. So that would be $5 million in our foreign reserve. That would be very huge. But again, like I said, it's good. But again, we need more.
Speaking of more, like Oliver Twist, always demanding more. You know, this particular amount, the $5 million, like we have actually stipulated here, was gotten from artisanal mining. Nigeria is blessed with enormous, solid minerals. How come we have not really harnessed all of that to the fullest? Now we are talking about gold. I'm sure we have other minerals, lithium. We have so much that we can do. But how do we begin to harness this so that we can begin to get foreign investors buy in and, of course, grow the economy, and the foreign reserve that we are talking about can actually be boosted?
I think first and foremost, we have to take it as a project. No government that really taking solid mineral as a project. Like I said, the person that saw value in that was the last minister, Kayode Fayemi, and after he left, I don't think the next minister took the kind of
interests, and that is one. Now, Dele Alaki has come in, he has said the right thing, he has gone to investment policies, he has hosted investment meetings all over the country, all over the world. I'm telling them about the kind of minerals, but again, we have to go a little bit further to attract multinational. The first thing we have to do is to create, to make sure that we have security. Why we are not seeing the value in most of these things, because most of the areas have been occupied by bandits, and the cause of banditry as it stands now have been the root cause of banditry as it stands now is the solid minerals, which are illegally mined by some other foreign nationals. I mean, foreign nationals that are also the ones mining this illegal mining in Zamfara, in Kebbi, and even in Sokoto State. And I think the government need to do more. Then secondly, I think technology is one area we've not been able to leverage on to begin to get value for that. I hopefully with the, by the time you are able to attract these conglomerate good companies to come in here, international investors, then they will come in with an improved technology, and that also will help. And again, I have to advise the government, because we must learn from our mistakes. And our mistake was that we shouldn't just sell off the gold to them. We will also be looking at how they can set up gold refineries here in Nigeria, whereby some of these products can be refined into finished products instead of just exporting the gold raw material. And we have some companies in Nigeria that are already looking at that, like we have a particular company called Japan Gold. They're also looking at exploitation of gold, and with the kind of prospectus they have brought out, it means that that sector can just be a game changer, can even give us more in terms of effects than even the oil and gas sector. And its processes are not as difficult as what you have in the oil and gas sector. And then lastly, again, maybe the government would also think of giving amnesty to some of these bandits, knowing fully well that they are the ones that are operating some of these illegal mines. So by that, you will be able to open up those areas like what we saw in the Niger Delta.
True. All right, let's just slide on and move on to other aspects. Let's talk about Moody's, their ratings. Well, they seem to think that the country's credit outlook is good, in as much as it has said that our interest spending.
Massive borrowing that we saw during the Buhari administration. And so if debt payments are about 36%, I think that is something to celebrate. And then that means that we've been able to reduce our debt profile, just like what the Minister for Finance said some time ago, that we are reducing our debt profile. So I think it's it is good news that 36%. Then again, when you look at that 36%, how much of those percentage, if we could just imagine if we can do 36% of our budget spending on infrastructure, that would be huge. But we are doing it on debt servicing. Then, the current expenditure is taking over almost over 60% of our budget allocation, 60 to 70%. So by the time you put that, you barely have anything for capital projects. So, but again, it's still good comparable to 98% where we had to borrow for every meaningful project that we have to do. And for me, I think it's a good thing. It makes that Nigeria is credit worthy, and that's a good pointer for investors to begin to look at the country.
Okay, let us just analyze some other aspect that Moody's mentioned in 5 months of 2024. It went on to say that this in turn is expected to increase interest payment by around 1% of the GDP in the year under review.
Yes, we've said a lot about that. Your program, I think sometime last week, even still said about it, whether the hawkish natures of the central bank is doing any good to the local economy. And it's not doing any good to the local economy at all. It tends to look at what can we do to fix the FX rate, and then the only way we can fix this FX rate, we cannot grow enough to earn FX on our export. So what do we have that we can bring in? Then we begin to think about attracting foreign direct investors. We are attracting portfolio investors for now, the hot money. Those are what we are using now to try to stabilize our currency, and that is why the local businesses are now almost at a state of comatose, because they have to borrow because of high costing of lending when you hike interest rates. So in the short term, I think the CBN is looking at ways to stabilize the exchange rate. And like I keep saying, no matter what the CBN tried to say, the major key driver of exchange rate volatility in Nigeria still remains I mean, the main key driver of inflation in Nigeria still remains exchange rate volatility. So they need to address that. If they are able to address that, that will bring down inflation down. And the other way they have to address the inflationary pressures, also take a bite of their revenue in terms of tariff or import duty. But you know, this government will tell you they need all the revenue, like we just said. Initially, about 36% is what is used for debt servicing. By the time you begin to cut off their revenue, they might be using more in terms for debt servicing than what they are using now. So, which way, but we are not in a good state, especially the private sector, not even the public sector.
Before we leave the topic of the CBN interest rate and public finance and public debts, but the CBN seems to believe. Let me even get your opinion. No, we have talked about this, but just yesterday or 2 days ago, the CBN governor was in the news, and the bank is saying that its monetary policy of tightening rates is actually working, as demonstrated, according to them, the deceleration of the nation's headline inflation. How do you share this sentiment?
What I need to ask is, Justin, I remember you saying you also go to the market sometimes to have a view of what, if you go to the market, have inflation come down, and cost of any goods come down, definitely no. So maybe it tends to come down in their own sites. The CBN governor kept saying that. Then in the other hand, he talked about increase in terms of revenue, income, salaries for the increment in salary that is not even yet there. It's only the wages allowance they are paying. He said that is responsible. He talked about also, I think he was talking about food food production also low. He talked about a lot of things that he felt that what are responsible for the inflationary pressure. And then he now finally talked about the exchange rate volatility. And then he came down to say that, some of these things we don't have control over, which the one they only have control over is to hike the rate. So definitely he have answered the question for himself, knowing that these things have not worked. Look at food inflation, it's over 40%. So I don't tend to agree with that.
Okay, so let's just dive on and just finally go to the issue of pension funds. The gray age would be interested in this, but even before people retire now, people are getting their voluntary contribution. They are withdrawing from it because of the economic hardship, and it is becoming very alarming. From the reports that we read, the number of workers who made withdrawals from their voluntary pension contribution increased by 87.6% in the first quarter of this year. That's from about 694, from the previous quarter to almost doubled, 1,302. How do you reason all of this?
Well, Justin, I like the idea that it's called voluntary contribution pension. Those are the ones that are really, really affected. And the mandatory contributing pension, you have to get a certain age to withdraw it. If you are retired, then if you lost your job, also there's a certain time you have to stay before you can begin to access those funds, or if you resign from your job. So I think the good news is the mandatory pension scheme is still working very well. The voluntary one is more or less as a means of saving. Remember, that was introduced to help reduce the house difference in terms of mortgage. If you are able to do to a certain percentage, then those the pension fund administrators, PFA, will be able to help you. We are not seeing that again because of the hardship. And when you look at those numbers, it's scary because when you are seeing about 1,232 voluntary pension contributors from the private sector withdrawing, then you see about 43 from the public.
Mukhtar, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay,
you see about 43 from the public sector, when you are seeing about 1,020. So it shows that the current economic policy is having a huge negative effect on the private sector. And when you talk about the private sector, you talk about the formal private sector, then you talk about the informal sector, which drive over 80% of the Nigerian economy. And so what you are seeing in most of the voluntary contributing pension are coming from the SMEs, the informal sector. So that you tell the kind of pressure that is in that sector. As it stands now, that means some of the businesses are not striving, so the salary has not been increased. And what it means is that a lot of those people that are withdrawing may have been people that are out of job at the moment. So it's scary because the key driver of any economy is the private sector. So I think government need to look at some of the policies that have negatively impacted on the private sector. One of those very huge policies, the increase in tariff of electricity. Government really need to look at that so that the cost of production will come down. Because it's a pointer to tell you that a lot of companies are actually laying off their workers, and those workers are not being paid. And so that's why they have to go to their voluntary retirement pension to keep head out of water. And also maybe some of them also, they are still being paid salary. The salary has not been increased. So they have to go to their voluntary pension to begin.
We can only do our bit by analyzing these issues and stay hopeful that the federal government would actually key into all of these insights and do the needful so that Nigerians can actually live normal lives and be able to save for the future and, of course, be able to sleep with both eyes closed and be able to even have food in their stomachs. Many thanks once again. Mukhtar Mohammed is an international finance and economic analyst. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Justin. Thank you.
All right. That's the size of the show for today. My name is Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for being a part of it. Bye for now.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bukky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Being online has become a part of our every waking moment. From the moment we wake up in the morning till we hit the pillow at night, we are browsing, scrolling through social media, responding to messages. We live our lives online almost as much as we live it in reality. These anonymous interactions, like any other human interaction, comes with complexity and challenges. People get into civil discussions, debates, banter, and share with one another. With these interactions come disagreements, arguments, conflicts that can soon degenerate into trolling, bullying, and general unpleasantness. The discretion we employ in face-to-face interaction is further decreased online. In fact, according to psychologist Robert Sutton, disrespectful, demeaning, and downright mean-Sula in 2004 said, "The online disinhibition effects can cause people to act out in either a benign manner, wherein they overshare their personal information, or in a toxic manner, wherein they become abusive or threatening." "I am in my house, come and beat me," is a common saying online that alludes to the inaccessibility that emboldens even regular people to behave in less than civil ways online. Another factor responsible for this behavior, apart from anonymity and availability, is solipsistic introduction. A situation, according to Dr. Sula, where you don't have any physical cues associated with the person you're communicating with, and other person becomes just a voice in your head. As such, the people in your online conversations merely become characters in your imagination, formed by your own personal history and expectations. You might also hear his or her voice as your own, which makes you feel more comfortable with the other person and further lowers your inhibitions. As we have rules that guide our interactions in real life, unspoken rules need to be developed for online interactions. Social media etiquette, or social mannerism simply put, means do's and don'ts for social media interactions. These etiquettes are also referred to as netiquettes. The term netiquette refers to all aspects of online communication, including email, instant messaging, social media, multiplayer gaming, and other forms of online communication. The main goal behind netiquette or mannerisms on social media is to treat others with respect and take care of intellectual property rights and associated implications. Personal information, images, or videos of anyone should not be shared without consent or mentioning credits where due. Except we seek to change such behaviors, it will pervade. Here are some social media netiquettes. When sending a DM, be polite and go straight to the point. When responding to posts, even if you disagree, be careful not to use condescending and insultive words. Take a 5-minute pause before you post any comments. Don't comment on topics that people tend to be passionate about. Don't respond to insults or hateful language. Don't say to people online what you won't have the audacity to say to them in person. Avoid excessive tagging of people. Ask before tagging people. Although it may seem inoffensive, tagging a friend or acquaintance on social media without their permission could in many ways cause problems for that person. Good social media etiquette means you should always request for permission before tagging anyone. Post only flattering pictures of other people. Apply the billboard test. Assume that everyone in the world can and will see everything you post. So if it's not billboard worthy, don't post it. Give credit where it's due. Don't post other people's photos or quotes without clear attribution. This means no screen grabs even if you have the best intentions. Instead, use a repost app to properly credit others for your own content. Think of the future you. Your taste will change, as will your sense of humor, but your photos will live on forever. Use caution when posting. Don't take screenshots of other people's private moments that they shared with you in confidence. Censor yourself. You might treat your Facebook or Twitter accounts as diaries. Don't share everything with your readers. Some things are meant to be kept private.
I was just calm. I just kept calm, like, okay, let's see what's going to happen next. And they were there that night till at about 6. We sat in the bus and we drove. So we drove for a couple of hours. I can't remember how many hours, but like close to 7 hours. So on daybreak, I saw where we got to was like a house, very big house, gated, fenced and all that. And they just dropped us there and turned back. So I was surprised, like, So for the first time, and I had to ask the 4 ladies, the 3 other ladies that we left together, please, do you guys really know where exactly we are going to? Like, this whole thing is really looking blurry to me and I don't understand anything anymore. And they're like, even them too, they are even confused though. And to crown it up, they asked us not to talk to each other. They asked us not to say anything to each other. I don't understand. So I just looked everywhere and saw that, okay, there are batches and batches of people seated at different corners. Okay, so I really need to ask questions. So at that point, one Alhaji came out, like he's one in charge of that house, and then he did say, okay, let's look for something to eat. All through this while we are not eating, And he said we should fix something to eat, and they made one spaghetti that didn't have salt, and it was so very funny. Like, so I just summoned courage. I went to meet the Alhaji. I said, please sir, I need you to just be open and tell me what exactly is going on. Where am I, first of all? He said Duruku. I said, where is Duruku? He now said, how do I expect him to be able to explain that Duruku, that is what he knows, this place is Duruku. I said, okay, do you know where exactly I'm going to? Or do you know the person that brought me here? He was like, maybe Libya you dey go. I said, Libya. I said, I'm not going to Libya. He said, I still say you be Johnny just come. Like, he said, you don't reach here. The only thing now for you make you they go the place where then they carry you, they go say they go come carry you tomorrow night. And he refused to say anything afterwards. So I went to sit down and relayed what he said to the other ladies. And everybody became very, very, very like upset and curious, like, okay, let's even find out. So just at that time, there was a lady in the particular room that had like 5 big bags, Ghana must go bags, big ones. So she said she was going back to Kano, that she stays in Kano. She sells gold and clothes. She speaks Yoruba. So she was explaining to one of the ladies. So that was the first instance where I started hearing information. And I just didn't want to believe. Honestly, I didn't believe at that point that maybe that is what we are in. But what she explained to the lady was that we are either being transported to Libya for prostitution or Italy. And then the lady said, she told her that no, the person that took us said we are going to Malaysia. And the lady now laughed and said that is what they will tell you. And that this is her 5th time going through this route. That was the same way she was deceived. But she ran away and was able to find someone who helped her, and eventually that was the person she got married to, and now they are doing like illegal business. She goes there, buys stuff, and goes back to Kano to go sell. So I said, no, it cannot be possible. Like, we all agreed that it cannot be possible, because that was not what they told us. Looking at what the first guy told us, what the magician guy told us, what the lady told us, that it cannot be possible, that maybe hers is a different kind of connection. So fast forward from there, they came to pick us the next night in a Hilux, arranged us, and we drove for like 3 days non-stop. Okay, we had 2 stopovers. The first stopover was in a very cold, white place. Like, I have never seen that kind of cold in my life before. I was shivering to the brain. Like, I just couldn't imagine why I was going through this. Like, if these people really want to help me, this is not a way to help someone. You cannot be helping someone and the person is in pain. So, but I couldn't really say much because I was already in it. So we drove for days, and on the 3rd day where we stopped was really looking like, I didn't know what to call the place. There were thousands of people, young ladies, guys, and they were calling it ghetto. This is ghetto. They're calling the particular ghetto. The ghetto had a name, and they said, okay, now we can go and have our bath. So for the first time after 7 days, we're going to 8 days, we're going to have our bath and have change of clothes. So first of all, my concern was to even just let me even have a bath first and find something tangible to eat. So they made rice, we ate. In the midst of eating, I started hearing conversations. So I said, okay, since they said we should not talk to anybody, no problem. I'm going to find out everything I need to find out, and if possible, go back from here. So during conversations, I heard people saying, they will tell you everything possible, that here it is Libya, they're taking you to, you either go and work as a housemaid or you go and work in connection house, all manner of things. And at that point, it really dawned on me that what that lady had said earlier was very true. So the other 3 ladies, 2 of them now came to meet me when I was sitting down. I like, see what I am hearing. I said, okay, even me too. I heard the same thing. And they're like, are we sure we want to continue this journey? So at that point, I was really upset with myself not to have verified whatever information I got. I started crying. I was in pain. Like, why will I be going through this? Like, no. Even if, for crying out loud, this is not help. This is like putting me in a pit where I can't talk, I can't communicate. Now there is no communication, nothing. So I looked around, we were there till the next day, and then there was this particular guy, Mohammed, that was giving out clothes, was calling out names and all. So I walked up to him and said, please, at this junction, I don't think I want to continue this journey. Can you help me? I want to go back home. And then he said, that what I just asked is very dangerous. That if it was yesterday when I came that I said that it would have been, maybe you can manage or think of how to go about it. That already the person that I'm being taken to knows I'm here. Whatever makes me not get to her, he has to be the one to pay for me. I'm like, pay for me as how? He said, somebody paid for you to be brought to her, and pay transit, they pay additional money just to be sure that the person is being carried along. And I was like, okay, so how much does it cost to get up to this point? And if I'm to go back from here, I can actually call them, tell them I don't want to continue this journey and I want to go back home. He said it's either of two things. It's either you get home or you don't get home. They might tell you to go. They'll either kidnap you and sell you to a place where you'll never be able to come out from, or they might even kill you. That he would advise me to just go and face my fate, but I should pray that whoever I'm going to go and meet is not a bad person. And I asked that, why did he say so? He said he cannot say anything more. That I'm here, and the only way forward is to move forward. I was like, okay. I was broken. I couldn't even tell the other ladies what he had said. I summoned courage to eventually see. So that night, they put us in a hilux. We're about 36 or 32 of us. And they made us sit in rows in the hilux. So we drove for like 3 days. We had a couple of stopovers, but I was really choked up because I was seated back in the hilux. So everybody's weight was resting on me, and it was hell for me. I couldn't breathe at some point. My legs were dead. I couldn't move. Even when we stopped, I took like minutes. Most of us took like minutes to even be able to stand up. And I was like, no. But even if I were to travel by road, he did say he was going to be at some point. At least by now, the traveling by road should have stopped. And that was... So I remembered what the other guy said at the... where we were, that there's no flight, anything. They deceived you. Everything they told you was just to cajole you to decide to go, that there is no flight anywhere. You're going by road to wherever you're going to. So at that point, I was just concerned with one thing, which is surviving and coming back home at all cost. So after the first stopover, I became sick a little bit. I started having too many issues. So I decided not to sit in the hilux again. And then I had to sit at the edge on top of the tire box. And then I had a stick in between my legs. So they made ladies sit inside the hilux, and then the guys would sit around the hilux. But because of my previous experience, I had difficulties breathing. I said I wasn't going to sit inside the hilux again, that I was going to sit at the edge. So I did sit on the edge of the hilux and had a stick to hold on to, and we drove for another couple of days. The experience in the desert was, it's not something, sometimes when I think about it, I just smile. My smiling is not that, okay, I'm happy, but I wonder how I was able to pull through. I wonder how I was able to manage my health. I wonder how I was able to cope up mentally, emotionally, thinking about everything I had left back at home, everyone. I kept them in the dark. I didn't really say much. And then thinking about the people who deceived me, like, if you want to help someone, you should help someone and not even put them into more problems. So a lot of things were racing through my mind. I got so discouraged at my own life. I felt really bad that I was impatient. I didn't ask questions. Of all places, why would I be going to Libya to do what? Like, I wasn't even, I couldn't really define the feelings I had then. But at each point, what I always did was to just pray to God that, God, I know that I have done wrong not to have even, look out for my own self. But I am asking for just one thing. Wherever I'm going to, make sure you take me back home, healed and healthy. So we had another stopover. I got beaten along the way by Arab men. I was trying to save someone from getting beaten wrongly, and I got the beating. Difficulty, there was no food, there was no water, the weather was, the sun would be shining and scorching, and the cold was extremely cold. Like, I couldn't really, there was no definition of everything that was going on. I was just bleak and blank. At the point, I was regretting every step from my friend. I started cursing, like, so she knew about this. That was why at the point she disappeared. She didn't really see anything. And even when I asked her about it, she pretended not to know anything about traveling. That this guy didn't tell her anything about traveling. But I'm like, but you introduced me to this guy, so it's not possible for him to come tell me something about traveling and you didn't know. I thought so far and wide to the point where I felt, okay, I know I'm not going to die. I know I'm not going to die. I know I will go back home. And I'm so going to fish these people out and really find out the reason why they ever did such to me. At some point, I became very ill. I had very bad cough because I refused to sit again at that point. We had sat for like 3 days. So all my ties were burnt and peeled from the sitting. And the Hilux, the speed at which the Hilux was moving was really high. It wouldn't stop. At a point, a guy fell off the Hilux and they didn't wait. They didn't wait. The drivers were so mean. We don't understand their language. They don't understand our language. So even when you're beckoning on them to say, oh, something is going on. There was a time a guy was throwing up. He was feeling, okay, I think it was about throwing up. So we're like, okay, maybe if he stops. We tried beckoning on them. And if they come out, the next thing they do is to probably hit you with something, saying all manner of languages. We didn't understand. We couldn't speak to them. They couldn't speak to us. It was hell for me. So because my laps were peeled, I couldn't sit again. So I now stood behind the pavement of the main Hilux box. And then that journey was for 5 days. 5 days of cold. 5 days, as in I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. Like at some point, I would just cry and scream out loud. Like I wish the sky could even feel my pain. Like there was no definition to what I was going through. And I just kept crying and crying and crying. After crying, I'll console myself. You're just crying. You see, everybody here, they also have one reason to cry. So they cannot shoulder you and tell you sorry. So you alone will have to shoulder your pain. And that hurt me so bad. Sometimes when people see me talk about the story and I'm not really showing so much emotions, they feel, oh, we're not too sure you went through this. I have said it like 1,000,001 times. It's something I went through, and I can imagine how I had to just tell myself that, come, you have a child back home that you love. You need to be alive to come back to her. That was my source of strength. And the life I really wanted for myself ever before embarking on that journey just kept me going, that I know one day I am going to eventually come back and say this story to people. So at that point, remembering and recalling everything, one question kept popping in my head. Why will people not have any other thing to do other than to do a business where you transport people to an unknown country, you lie to them, you deceive them, you promise them heaven and earth, and then put them on a dangerous path where is either they make it or they don't make it, and you will not even tell them any of this. So I was bent on making it to wherever it is. I said to myself, no matter how wicked whoever it is I'm going to go and meet is, I'm going to come back home and know the reason why people really did this business. On getting to Sabah, Sabah is halfway into Libya. On getting to Sabah, we had a connection house where they put us. We met about 60 ladies in the room, and then the guys also had their room. And they kept adding us. They kept adding. And at a point, I counted, we were about 80 in that room, the ladies' room. The guys were about 40-something. The food was really bad. You know, having to make banku. Now, this is not even the original banku. This is the banku made with flour. Having to make flour like fufu. And then maybe they'll serve like 20 plates down. And then everybody will now line up. By the time you're eating, it's as though you're eating stone, you're swallowing stone. The soup was so watery that you won't even, you're not. The very first day I was asking myself, like, I know I had challenges back at home, but my challenges were not so bad that I couldn't even eat a good meal. Like, this is not a meal. So the first day we had that in the night. The next day we had rice, very small portion of the rice was dried. You can imagine when you boil rice and then you open it, you put it in a plate and you just open it down. And because the weather is very cold, so anything you don't keep properly dries up. So by the time you're eating the rice and like it's like you're eating rubber. So at some point we just sit there crying out that no, this is not life. This is not, why are we having to go through this? I would cry every night. I would beg God that please, can I just vanish from here? Okay, at the point I was begging for death to come because it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. And within ourselves, some girls were like, they were really radical about it and they were like, no, we need to tell them, it's either they change the way they are doing this food or maybe we should even take up the cooking by ourselves. So I thought of it, I was like, okay, that's true. So if already I'm going through hell and then food now has to be a problem. So we waited for the ghetto man, the person in charge of the ghetto, like we waited for him to come. We kept shouting, when is he coming? When is he coming? We don't even know why we are here. We don't even know what we are doing here. So at that time we had stayed a week. We don't know why we are being kept here. We don't know who even put us here. We don't even know anything. Nobody is saying anything. So when the connection man did come, we took turns to ask questions. I noticed everybody was just asking questions. Where are we going to? Where are we going to? And all. So I did ask him. I said, okay, first of all, why are we here? Do you have an answer or do you know the reason why we are here? And then he said, you are here because you're being transported to your burger. And then we now asked, what is the meaning of a burger? He said a burger is a person that paid for you to be transported from Nigeria. So we're like, is that the reason why we are being given bad food? Like when you're given something to swallow and it's already hurting your throat, like practically almost everybody had sore throats from that banku. And it was like, okay, he doesn't know anything about the way the food was being prepared, but that this place is just a transit. And the reason why we are here is because the road is bad, there is war, and they cannot transport us. It's very risky. And that we might meet rebels on the way, and rebels, they either rape, kill, abduct. And we're like, okay, so for how long are we going to be here? He said, doesn't know until the war is over. So if it takes 1 month, if it takes 2 months, but just know that for every food you are eating, for every extra thing you collect here, your money is piling up. It is your burger that is paying. And when you get to wherever you're going to, you have to work to pay your burger back. So we now, 5 of us volunteered to be cooking our food by ourselves, and we were there for extra 2 weeks and some days. In total, we were there for 3 weeks and 5 days. And then we started the journey to Libya. That was where I had a near-death experience. So we were somewhere, we were kept in a particular house where they locked us. There was no light, nothing. And then we were pressed. We had traveled, we had drove for like 2 days, and they put us there. So, but before we entered, we were already beckoning on this people that we want to ease, we want to ease. They didn't even want to listen. They were just pushing us like, how can you people just be pushing somebody like animals? We don't even know where we're going. Like, this is very unthinkable. So I held that urine for good 2 days. So the next morning when they came, you now see them begging that, please, we want to wee. So the man was, arrogantly, he was talking, and he went to get a gallon, like this aluminium gallon. We now looked at it that, how a guy can pee in this, but how can a lady pee in this? And from the descriptions he was giving us, he meant that we shouldn't allow the pee to spill on the floor. So we said, okay, all the guys should pee first and the ladies would take turns to pee, which was what happened. And somehow pee actually spilled. So by the time he was coming back, when he opened the door, so the pee, pee wouldn't, and you can imagine pee that stayed, the smell, it was awful. He was angry. He went back, he went to get a stick, and he was holding like 3 different things. So I was wondering, what does this guy want to do? At that point, everybody had their heart in their mouth, because the moment you see them holding anything, they can hit you anywhere. They can hit you anywhere. So he was now asking who spilled pee on the floor. They were pointing to the wrong person. So I was just watching initially. They were pointing to and he was going to start beating her. So I was not like trying to say, no, she wasn't the one. You see, when that spring landed on my head, this spring they use in the water closet? Very strong and thick. And all I knew that was going on was that I was screaming at the top of my voice with both hands on my head, because it actually hit me on my head. And when I gave birth, like 8 months, when I was 8 months pregnant, I fell in the bathtub and had a slit on my head from the tiles in the bathroom. So sometimes that part of the head still hurts. So when he hit that spring on my head, it was exactly on that spot, and he did it like 3 times. He kept hitting the spring on me. I remember crying till I didn't know what was going on. And for the first time, when they say people have transition, I always wonder. I knew I was just lost somewhere. I knew something was going on to my body. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what. I was just blank. But I could hear myself crying. And I was just crying, as in, bitter tears. You cry bitter tears, and you just have to still be the one to tell yourself, you have to stop. So by the time I woke up, the other ladies were like, you need to see the way they were rejoicing, because they said they didn't believe I was going to still come back to life. The head was actually bleeding at that point. And at that point when I woke up, they had cleaned it, they had tried everything. I remember when they were pouring water on me. I remember when somebody was tapping me and everything. And I was like, they started explaining what actually happened. That the moment he hit that spring on my head the second time, I started screaming, and they noticed I was bleeding, and I cried, and I just went mute. And they were telling him that she's not talking. And the man just told them, bara, 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 bara. And he went away. He said they were praying, they were begging God that this girl must not die. She has been like a source of strength to us. If she dies here, what's going to happen and all that. It actually took me 4 to 5 hours before I woke up. And at that point, I had lost strength, I had lost everything. So there was a lady we met in that place that had a phone. So that was the first time I had to beg her. I'm sure it was because as a result of what had happened, she did not allow any other person use her phone. They would normally not allow you use their phones. So I couldn't even tell my mom what I was going through because there's no how she would hear my voice like that and not panic. And I knew the kind of mother I have. So I called my boss that I had worked with in the FRSC and told him, this is what has happened to me. And I don't even know where. Yeah, we're in Trauna at that time. And he said, but why didn't you say anything before leaving? And then I told him that they told us not to say anything. The moment they say don't say anything, you should have known it was trafficking. I know that you're naive and you do not know anything, but you should have told me. Because he was now like a father to me. Even after I had stopped working with the FRSC then, he was like a father to me. He said he was going to try his best to see what he can do, but that still being on transit, there is probably little or nothing he can do at that point. So I'm sure he tried calling back because the lady kept cutting a particular call. I wouldn't know, and I didn't want to disturb her. So at that point, I really cried. I cried. That was the only thing I could do. I just cried. Like, I have never suffered like this in my life before. Even if I'm to suffer anything, it shouldn't be suffering from a decision to have a better life. So long and short was, we got into Libya and they kept hiding us. They lay us in hillocks, cover us with tarpaulin, hiding, running, making sure you're not seen, number of choking, you have to be there, sometimes 3 hours, 2 hours, you won't be able to breathe, you can practically feel life leaving you, you're sniffing each other's air, and in the midst of all of this, some people will be fighting and quarreling and beating themselves. I just couldn't imagine why. And even in that, some people decided they wanted to go do this thing, like they wanted to travel this way. I didn't know anything like this existed. I didn't know anything of such even happens. Finding myself in it was like the biggest dream I never wished to have again. So, found ourselves in Libya, and the first thing they did, seeing Nigerian girls and women, I was like, okay, so finally, we have gotten to our destination. So, what's next? Entering that house, I knew this is going to be a big problem for me. Because already I was upset. I was ready to yell at anybody. And then the first thing they made us do was to strip ourselves. I was like, okay. So I did remember at some point in the journey where a particular guy, we met him somewhere, and he also gave us a hint of how it actually goes. He said they're taking you to the garage. And then I now asked, what is the garage? He said the garage is a place where they take Nigerian girls to. And that's the most common place that they take them to. And they're going to take you to the connection house. And what they do normally in the connection house is sex trade. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that one. He said, you will not have a choice. He said, they'll make life hell for you. You will not have a choice. So he now said that if eventually I get there and that is what it is, that I have an option to run away. But that is very risky. And then he did give me his number and said that I must not write that number anywhere. That if they see that number with me, they will beat the living daylight out of me. Because they will know that I have contacted the burger as well. So he made me cram that number. 2 of us, we crammed that number to be sure that we didn't forget the number. But you see all the experiences we went through afterwards. at a point I couldn't even remember the number anymore. And then I remember what he said. He said, you just have to help yourself remain strong. And while they asked us to strip ourselves, I was like, for whatever reason I'm coming to work for someone, why would you ask me to strip myself? So they said this. They were searching, maybe you have a number written somewhere in form of a tattoo, or maybe you wrote the number somewhere and you hid it in your clothes, or anything. They just wanted to be sure you didn't have any information whatsoever. They collected my phone, went through my phone, and that night they called us one after the other. So, what were you doing in Nigeria? And then I explained, and the man said, okay, now this is the woman and her husband. The man said, okay, I can see. And then the first question he asked me was, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I was dumb, like, he said, you have something good doing. What are you doing here? I said, it was a friend though, that said there's traveling opportunity, and said, there's no need to explain. You are here, you are here. Oh, no choice near. Your own is to make sure you work on time and pay and get out of here. So the wife now asked, what did they tell you that you're coming here to do? I said, first of all, this is not where they told me I'm coming to, and they told me I'm going to be working in a hair factory and a restaurant. Then she laughed and said, that is not it. That this is what they do here. That did I see all those other girls outside? I said, yes. He said, what do you think they are doing? I said, I don't really know, but I saw a couple of girls sitting down. He said, they're working for their money. He said, that is the same thing you're going to do. And I was like, I don't understand. He said, yes, that's the same thing you're going to do. So the earlier the better for you. I bluntly refused, because this is that wasn't what I was told in Nigeria. And for no reason, why would I leave Nigeria to come to Libya, to come and prostitute with my body to make money? How much money do I want to make? So I felt I was doing myself good by trying to be as open as possible. I was very plain and blunt, and then she just kept laughing. I was like, but yeah, nobody will tell you. So she said, okay. And the same thing with every other girls, because we had agreed that, okay, if eventually we find out that that is what we're actually being taken there to do, that we are not going to agree to it, because that was not the agreement. And for whatever reason, we cannot just decide to leave Nigeria and go and prostitute somewhere. So she was like, she knows that girls that they just bring from Nigeria are very stubborn, that she will give us 3 days to go and decide. But in that 3 days, we should be watching at the other girls to see how they actually go about what they do. And the first day went by, second day went by. I vowed to myself, I said, nowhere in heaven's name will I live this kind of a life. Like, it was so absurd. I was grieved, I was bitter, I was angry, all manner of words, because looking at all the experience in the journey, I almost died, and then all for what? To come here and come and use my body to work to pay someone. I'm like, it didn't make sense. I cried every minute I remembered. And on the 3rd day, she did call us to ask us if we were ready. I told her that she has to look for another job for me. And then she said, okay, since I don't want to take it easy, since I don't want to take it the easy way, that they'll show me how they also go the hard way. So that night, we didn't even know what she meant. That night, a girl was brought in, and we watched more than 5 people beat that girl black and blue. Wow. She had also refused the connection house where she was taken to. She had also refused to do the same connection house job. It was actually a burger that brought her, but they took her somewhere else. So they said she was being stubborn where she is, or where she was, and then they brought her back to the burger. Madam, come and take your girl, give us back our money. She said she knew they work. They beat that girl to stupor. They beat her to the point where I sat where I was and I told myself, I said it out, like, these people are not humans. Like, why? On seeing the way they beat that lady, I was like, so I will also come to this point where they will have to beat me to say, yes, I will do it. I said I would rather die. Because at the point when they beat her, she was like, okay, Mashe, I will do it, I will walk, I will do it. I was like, so this is what I will go through. So for some reasons, I didn't know, they took the other 3 ladies out of where I was. It was now left with only me in that house that came together. So after a week, she then asked me that, what else can I do? I said, I cook. She was like, okay. She gave me pepper and oil. I said, go and make stew with it. I made the stew. She told them to teach me how to make banku. I made the banku. She was like, okay, not bad for a start. So first of all, your first job here is you're going to be cooking for everybody. My heart was like, okay, finally she has agreed to give me something else. So another week went by and she said, Orobo, I don't know where one day she just called me by that name and said, for her, that is what she will be calling me. Although she gave me another name, Success. So everybody calls me Success, but she calls me Orobo. And then she looked at me and said, Orobo, are you ready to work now? I was dumbfounded and I couldn't say anything. And in my head, I was like, if it is to die here, I think I'm ready to do that. But to use my body here, I will not. So 3 weeks went down. And all of these weeks, nobody even came in one day to say, this person, how she be, who she be, and all. So after the 3rd week, a man came in, a matured Nigerian man, a Yoruba man. He came in and did ask to take me home. And at first she refused, that she wasn't going to let him take me home, but he begged and all of that. So when we got home, he sat me down and said, I didn't bring you here to come and sleep with you. I brought you here to teach you one lesson that will help you if you must live where you are. He said he noticed the way I was being questioned, the way I was being bullied and all that, that is the way the woman does. And that I'm even still seeing the better side of her, that she's a really, really hard person. And when she's ready to go hard, she goes all the way. He said, you see where you are, there's no shortcut. There is no way out other than for you to actually make money, pay them before you leave. And if you are not even careful, you'll be done paying them, you will not know, you'll still be there playing a fool, working for them. So you have to be smart. I see that you are innocent, but then yet you are smart. So I need you to wake up that smart instinct in you and know what to do to live there as soon as possible. He said he was going to be going to Italy in 3 weeks. From that time, that was the reason why the woman refused to give me to him initially, because normally that is the way some men will come there, take girls and they run away with them and they don't eventually get their money. So he said, but he's going to teach me how to make it fast. That if I work with my body to pay them, they'll split that money in 2. But if I'm doing something extra to pay them, they would record the money just the way it is. Say, for example, I sleep with someone and the man pays me 5,000 naira. They're not recording 5,000 naira. They're recording 2,500. But if maybe I sell something or I save up money and I give them that same 5,000 naira cash at hand, they'll record the 5,000 naira for me. So the best for me is to think of something I can start doing to get extra money, which is begging. So when these guys come, I have to beg them for extra penny. Or if they ask for anything beyond what I'm supposed to give them, like in normal duty, then I should ask for extra cash. Those extra cash are the extra stipends I'm supposed to be saving up to give them. I cried my ass out that night. So he said, you see, she's even giving you grace. He said, it's because she likes you. that this woman, she's naturally not the patient type, and the moment you're proving hard, she'll go hard with you and you give up. So the earlier the better for you. But I felt that he should just reach out to me and teach me something that would help me. So I eventually spent 2 years and 9 months in Libya altogether. I spent a year and 8 months in the Connection House, and that a year and 8 months was hell for me. So after 7 months, I tried reaching out. So at the point they released a phone for the girls in the house to call their customers, to know when they're coming, to know if you're having someone who is coming to come and sleep with you over, or someone who is going to come and take you out and all. So I begged one of the girls in charge one day to allow me buy airtime on the phone to call. So I did call my dad, and my dad was really bitter, and he said the only way he knows I can get out of that place is for me to find my way to the Nigerian embassy and tell them that I want to come back home. So I waited for 3 days to actually get that report, because he didn't know what to do at that point. He said, okay, can I call you back? So I said, I don't know, but I'll try and talk to the person in charge of this phone so that whenever you call, they give me the call to answer, which was what actually happened. And somehow, I don't know how they got to know, but they found out that I called the Nigerian embassy, and they beat hell out of my life. They beat hell, everybody in the house, plus at that time, my burger wasn't in Libya at that time, she was in Nigeria. It was the husband that was at home then. The husband beat me, all the girls in the house beat me, so I wanted to run away. Oh, I'm trying to be smart, and this and that. After all, they knew that from the very first day I came, the woman was calling me a virus because she knows that I'm kind of smart. I will try to play smart. So from that time, they locked me out from phone. They stopped allowing me go out. It was I can't start recounting experiences, day-to-day activities, how I felt. At some point, I would just practically pray that, God, please, when I sleep this night, don't allow me wake up in the morning. I slept very late, and I'm always the first to wake up. So after a while, I started gaining confidence, like, no, even if I foolishly allowed myself into this, I should be able to still bring myself out of it. So I changed my attitude and started being very smart. I called up as much information as I could. I got to, I became very nice. I always learned lessons, and, I was trying my possible best to see beyond the problem I was in and was already thinking of a way out. So I had a couple of guys who would just naturally like me, and they would tell me, you see, when you're ready to leave this place. Some guys went as far as asking, okay, madam, how much is this girl's money? Let's pay. She would intentionally double the money and make them run away. So when she did that the first time, the second time, I just knew that, okay, so this woman is actually being wicked. But not to worry, I'm actually still going to live here. So when it was about a year and 5 months, I sat down one day and calculated how much I had paid, minus all the subtraction. If you do anything, she'll beat you and subtract your money. Maybe 50 dinars, maybe 100. If you quarrel with anybody, maybe 200 dinars. If you fight, maybe 500 dinars and all. So by the time I calculated and I saw that the money had gotten up to like 5,000 dinars, which was actually what that man told me. He said normally it's supposed to be 2,500 dinars, but burgers are always wicked. They want to collect even double of that. So sometimes you have to pay up to like 5,000 to 6,000 dinars before they will let you go. And some will still not let you go, except you fight for your freedom. So when I calculated, and I had calculated about 7,000 dinars, I was like, okay, I think my time here is up. And then I started asking for freedom. She initially refused and said that I was not done paying her. So I said, okay. So in 2016, when she was going to come to Nigeria in September, she gave me freedom in August. That was a year and 8 months. She said, okay, that now I am free to work for my own money. But whatever money you're working, the same way they were splitting in two, it's just that this other half now, instead of them collecting it, they'll give it to you. Sometimes they may not even give it to you, they'll tell you to keep it with them. Maybe you want to send some money to Nigeria. So I said, okay, no, that I didn't want to keep it with them, that I actually wanted to live there. She said, I cannot live there until she comes back. I have to wait for her to come back to Libya because she had had a new child and she wanted to come home. I said, okay. So throughout that month, that September, I kept having dreams that if I don't leave that place, I probably might not have my life again. The dream came like about 5 to 6 times, and then I just summoned courage to open up to the husband, to tell him that I think I'm very sick and I want to go take care of myself. This is about a year and 9 months now. From the day one up until now, I worked every day and slept nothing more than 3 to 4 hours, that I needed to take care of myself. And he understood with me because several times in between, I had fallen sick, like so bad, that at some point it took drips to like resuscitate me back and all. And the man also knew that I was very, very hardworking. Like at the point, he would always tell the wife, stop beating this girl. Like you need to stop, even if you're beating every other person, but you see this one, stop beating her. And the next thing is, she will say, oh, okay, so now you're sleeping with my husband. My husband is fighting for you. This, that. I know you are hardworking, but you must be sleeping with my husband for him to be fighting me to stop beating you. And then she will intensify whatever thing she was doing. So, but I kept bearing them up. At that point, I made up my mind. So there's this Ghanaian guy who had already told me that whenever I'm ready, that he had an apartment he doesn't really stay in, that he goes to the village to work. Sometimes he doesn't come home 2-3 months, that he could give his space up for me to stay there, take care of myself. So when I did mention to him that I wanted to go and that I was sick, he did say, okay, that I should call the wife and tell her, which I did. And then she was like, so I cannot wait for her to come back. I told her that no, I can't wait, that I'm very, very sick and I needed to go take care of myself. She said, okay, I should hand over the account to the husband and I can leave, which I did. That was in October 2016. I did that in October 2016. In November, sorry, that was November 2016. I did that in November 2016. I had barely stayed a month in the new house where I was staying. I'd stayed a month and I was taking treatment, eating well and all that. And I heard she came back. She did actually call me to come and cook for her, but I refused going. And then on the 2nd of January in 2017, there was a massacre in the garage. The massacre was bloody. I think they were counting 300 bodies and they were still counting as at the time we got the news. The bombing and from where I was, it's not so far a distance, it's a bit far. We could hear the bombs, we could hear the gunshots. Part of the things we face like every day, you don't sleep, like gunshots. There are some bombs that you practically feel like the house is going to be uprooted from the ground. There was a day that we were running and a stray bullet passed by my side, brushed my leg. Like, I don't know how I escaped. I don't know how I escaped, but you know, it was just God that was just protecting me all through. And at that point in January, when that massacre happened, like 6 girls in that house actually died. And for me, I felt, oh, this is God just saving me. I guess this is what God was talking to me about when I kept seeing those dreams, and I made up my mind I was going to just go back home. 2 months out of there, I called a friend and told her that if there was a way she could help me find money, I needed to come back home. And she was the one that told me about the voluntary return, that I needed to find my way to the UN's office or whichever way and all that. So I remembered contacting the Nigerian embassy. So I did keep the number. So I then asked questions because I was now going to a church. I then asked questions and they said, okay, that I needed to get to the IOM office. I had challenges locating them in the first place, but eventually I got to the IOM office and then they gave me a date to come back to visit. I did drop all my information and then they said, okay, that in 2 weeks' time I should go to the Nigerian embassy to go get a travel document. And after getting a travel document, they will not let me know when to come back and I'll be ready to go to Nigeria. So that was all. And up until then, I just kept managing, kept believing God that it was going to work well. And eventually it did work well, and that was how I came back to Nigeria. August 28th in 2017. And for me, that was the best decision I could make. Though it was painful that I just went to suffer my life out for almost 3 years and no gain, nothing, and then I'm back, having to come back empty-handed. And up until today, both the travel agent, both the guy that introduced me to the travel agent and the lady, none of them has been found. And life hasn't been easy. Getting back to my feet, like I was in bad depression for like almost 2 years. It was really bad coming back to see that, okay, first of all, I have lost money, I have lost friends, I have lost business, and then having to resume my motherly duties almost immediately because children wouldn't hear, oh, I had a bad experience. And then having to reintegrate back into the community, it was really difficult. Like, it just took the grace of God and it took my kind of strong personality to just keep resuscitating me, and I just kept believing that I'll definitely be who I really wanted to be. I didn't really need to think about the pain, but then the lesson can never be forgotten. The experience can never be forgotten. The trauma, the pain and everything can never be forgotten. But then one thing can be done, which is moving ahead and making use of all the experiences. And then I did find answers to my quest as to why people did trafficking as a business. And I think that apart from poor economy, some people are just ignorant and they don't really care. They just can do anything just to make money.
The pandemic opened the world to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. You know, when they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You know, you just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
Hello and welcome to this edition of our program, Timeless Conversations. Today, my guest is someone who has played such a significant role in the development of hip-hop music in Nigeria, which has actually now transformed into what is popularly called Afrobeats with the S. You understand me? And today he is functioning not directly as a practicing musician, and we'll get into that, but he's functioning as an administrator of sorts in the world of music. He is currently the president of the Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria, PMAN. Let's welcome together Pretty Okafor.
Thank you so much.
How are you
Thank
doing?
you for having me. I'm good.
Nice to see you. If you recall, there was a duo called Junior and Pretty back in the day, and they caught the nation by storm. Their music was very original. Their songwriting was simple, direct, and everyday. Nigerians related to it. There was one of their major hits. There was Monica Monica. And then after that was Bolanle. But I'm going to ask him a question now. How were you able to cope with the loss of your brother, friend, colleague, Junior?
It wasn't easy. I think till date it still affected me because we started as
teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Our first album were teenagers.
Yes.
With the Monica thing. And so that means we grew up as children till when we became teenagers and to adulthood. So we've known each other for close to like 40 years. Then we're used to combining in the craft of songwriting, creating rhymes. We're the first people that started creating rhymes from our local content and all that.
Yes.
So the encouragement, may he so rest in peace, when Junior left, the encouragement wasn't there anymore, but I had so much responsibilities to handle. I had to now look after his family, my family, and the extended family. So it was a huge tax, but I thank God I survived it.
Yeah, one of the things that happened to you was that you went quiet, very quiet, and you look quiet naturally. So
I'm quiet.
Yeah. So you went quiet.
No, not really. I didn't go quiet. Like I said, I had to concentrate on building companies because Gina wasn't around. So making money from what we were doing, because from playing the concerts, we started producing and anchoring Benson & Hedges Golden Tones.
Yes,
you
I remember that.
So we're still doing that when he had that crash and passed. So I woke up one day, I just got irritated or frustrated, and I resigned. I don't want to work with.
That's going quiet.
Eh?
That's going quiet.
Yeah, but I went quiet, now concentrating, paying attention to build companies, to build structure.
So what companies were you building?
Okay, I was building Pretty Boy Entertainment. Pretty Boy Entertainment is the biggest. Pretty Boy Entertainment used to produce Mega Jam.
Okay.
So built Pretty Boy Entertainment, built Red Worldwide, and a whole lot. Red Worldwide is a marketing company. Responsibilities
falling on you.
Yeah, and again, also remember at that era they weren't making much money. We weren't making much money like this. This youths are making now. So you had to do a whole lot and pay attention, be focused to succeed in those things.
You guys were first striking at the glass ceiling. These guys shattered it.
Yeah. So you could say we prepared the path for them to excel, and that's why till today I get excited. I'm happy with what is happening with our music scene and the growth.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, having seen what you did back in the day, how do you feel with the exponential growth that could only have been dreamt up back then?
I'm sure wherever Gino is, he's very, very excited, because while we were 1989, 1990, while we were working, we're in Nigeria, so every other brand of music is excelling, but no one has crossed Nigeria or crossed Africa. But reggae was everywhere.
Reggae came from everywhere.
Yes, so we wanted to create a genre that can beat reggae. Though it didn't happen while we were still performing, but it has happened now.
Yes.
Like I said, Jen is very, very happy wherever he is. And I'm excited because what we planned, like I keep telling people, what happened to Afrobeat now was a predetermined progress. It was a predetermined structure that me and Junior built. We were chasing it. But again, if you're building something, I learned it with experience, if you're building something that is fantastic, you might not be the one that will take it.
It doesn't usually happen like that.
So where the music industry is now, I'm excited, I'm proud. I keep telling it to everybody, just do what you can do that is your part, and the rest will take care of itself.
I'll take up one thing you said. You said something about collaborative songwriting, right? Between you and Junior in his lifetime. Is there the hope that the songwriting segment of the performing arts would be built up to international standards where people can write songs,
give to somebody, license to somebody else to sing, and then they make money from it? Or they just have to keep selling?
No. It's already happening.
It is?
It's already happening. Like, luckily, I'm the president of the Performing Musicians Employers Association of Nigeria. Now, PMAN is not a music association. It's a trade union. It's the only trade union in creative industry.
Okay.
It's entertainment industry. So, now going through that and also working, like a whole lot of people, like, okay, we know pretty what he can do. We try to portray and push forward where songwriters are making money, composers are making money.
Okay.
They are splitting revenues when it comes to royalties. So now, if you write song, you don't just write and they pay you off. You write and share split royalties. There's a split contract.
Okay.
So once that song start raking in billions, trillions,
No, you can even start with thousands.
Yes, but you start
Yes.
making money. So there's a whole lot of the songwriters now that don't just write song and they pay them 1 peanut. They write song and they do a contract.
Okay.
They can also pay them money, but they do a contract. And the contract is the split sheet contract that they will do with the artist. So once the song goes viral, the songwriter is also making money.
Is also making money. Which brings me to this point, and that is that there used to be this issue of royalty, collection of royalty and all that. And recently, I think MCSN has been recognized as the only collecting society in the country licensed to operate within the country. Is PMAN part of that, or how does that impact PMAN and its members?
First, if getting into the system, and knowing what the structure of PMAN, or authority of PMAN is, if PMAN does not agree, have a contract with you, you cannot collect from musicians. That's one thing for sure. So what MCSN is doing, because there's an agreement between PMAN and MCSN to collect for our members.
Okay.
And because we're a trade union, for a member means whether registered or non-registered musicians. So MCSN is actually the ones that are licensed right now to collect royalties for musicians. And PMAN supervises that collection. PMAN makes sure that the corporate bodies pay. MCSN collects, and MCSN distributes to the members, to the owners of the rights.
Okay. Now, the process of collection should suggest, or rather suggest, that there's some level of registration, and you seem to have alluded to it when you said that whether you are a registered member or unregistered member.
That's for PMAN. That's for PMAN.
I'm going to PMAN. So how does PMAN ensure that all musicians register?
Now, if you don't have to be a PMAN member before releasing a song. That's our work is to monitor that structure, that scene, that music, and music entrepreneurship and music performance. That's what we do. So, but to collect your royalties. Now, they've been collecting royalties. Some of them don't register in Nigeria, some of them register outside.
Outside, yes.
But first, to collect your royalties, which is not your master royalties, is your mechanical royalties, your performance royalties, your digital royalties, or your needle time. We call it neighboring right royalty, but it's needle time royalty for you and your members. For you to collect that, you need a CMO, a copyright management organization, to be able to collect that. And for you to collect that and register in your account, you need to be a member of the CMO.
Okay. In this instance,
MCSN. You need to be a member because MCSN has a reciprocal agreement with other CMOs around the world.
Okay.
So when they collect rights of Nigerian musicians and all that, they channel it to MCSN. MCSN collects it from them and distributes. So for you to get your money in Nigeria, not just collecting in South Africa or in Ghana or that, to collect it from Nigeria, you need to be a registered member of MCSN.
Okay, so that's MCSN. Now, PMAN. Is membership open to anyone who is into music, or who is an instrumentalist, or who is what? And how does that happen?
Now, to be a PMAN member, you need to be a musician. You need to be a music practitioner. You need to be a music producer. You need to be a music director. You need to be a music promoter.
A promoter?
Yeah. Because the union accommodates people that work around music.
Okay, around music.
Yes. Yeah. So that's it. Your DJs, your dancers. Now, the reason why they created that body, and I'm sure when my leaders created it, they didn't, maybe where it was just me and my team that found out that we're actually a trade union, not an association. They were calling it an association until we got hold of the certificates and all that. Now, the reason for government to give PMAN that certificate is so that you could protect the rights of the musicians and the music practitioners.
Okay.
So the music practitioners could be all those people that I mentioned. And why they need to register so that PMAN can take care of their welfare. Now, like what we created recently, once you register, you get automatic medical insurance. You get a life insurance in case of eventualities. You get a pension plan in case when you get to 65 to 70 and you want to retire from active performance. Then you also get a backup for legal assistance in case of contractual issues. If you know, recently since we came up, it has died down. Contractual issues, then visa assistance. Also, PMAN is the only body that can give you a notary document that will make any country give you a work permit to do your tour. So if you're going tours around the world or any country, they definitely need a work permit in that country.
Okay.
And the only union or association that can give it to you
from here
is a PMAN.
So now, you see where you spoke about welfare. You will come to expatiate on it, but let's talk about what propelled you to run for the presidency of PMAN.
Wanted to do things the right way. I'm this person that believes that our country can be the biggest and the most beautiful country on planet Earth if we have fantastic leaders. So I've always said that. I've always worked towards that because I'm saying this because of how I've been able to manage my own company. Wanted to do something differently. The union was lying fallow until I was called upon. And I'll tell you again, they called me because I was successful in my own business.
What is the
elders in PMAN.
Name them. A few of them.
Kenny George, Zima Coy, Murphy Van Anthony. That's the era when they were having.
Okay.
So I came in and I said, okay, let's look at it. But we were able to build the structure now because I came in with the business background attitude. I came in and they were using some kind of funny lawyers, and I said, no, I need to bring my personal lawyer in here. I need to bring my personal accountant. I need to bring my personal finance director. So we started adjusting. We worked so hard, and we wanted to prove that, yeah, there might be some mistakes formally, but we're here now to take the union forward. And everybody can testify to what has happened. Recently, we purchased the first ever PMAN edifice for the past 40 years. And we moved the headquarters from Ikeja to the island. And then we're now springing up radio stations both in Lagos and Abuja. So
you have radio stations that are yours? Oh, that's good. Now, what's the significance of moving from Ikeja to the island?
Okay, we wanted to. I'm the middle school. If I should use the word, there's old school, there's new school, there's middle school. So me, Junior, and the rest of Sonny Neji,
people of your
Zaki, we're middle school. We're not new school. So actually, they voted us out, the younger ones. We have these other younger ones, Roger Man, Asha Gangali, and the rest.
Yes.
So when we got the fund to purchase the property, so I wanted to buy it in Ikeja. But the way I run the association, I run an open office. So we all voted. And I found out that it was only me and Sonny Neji that voted for Ikeja. The rest voted for Island. Like, what are we going to be doing on the island? What are we going to blah, 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 blah. But these boys sat us down and made us understand that the music industry has moved from Ikeja to Lekki. So if we want to get these boys to recognize, they know P-Man, some of them might know P-Man, but they don't understand the worth of P-Man. For them to understand that...
Or want to associate.
To associate, we need to buy the property where they reside, so where it's going to be closed. I doubted it, but again, we voted, so I allowed it. But I'll tell you the truth, at the time we purchased it, we're just doing all the renovation and all that. These boys still trooping in. The younger ones, the new car, the whole of them were trooping in. They were excited that P-Man that they know is actually actually been revived and all that.
So it's like this is now our P-Man.
Now, no,
they have brought it to us.
Is their own P-Man now, because I keep telling them I'm old school. But the beautiful thing, like what we keep telling them, once I leave, we're handing over to the younger ones. They are running it. We won't do that same mistake that the older ones, they want to stay put there and all that. So we're actually bringing them on board for them to understand how the structure works and how what you must do to progress and what you will do that will make you fail. So that's where we are.
Now, you said something about welfare for musicians. Now, the welfare in the Nigerian sense, it seems as if someone just takes over all your responsibilities. Is this clearly defined?
Yes, it is. For your medical insurance, is for, first, for you to understand the structure, is a group.
It's a group life thing.
Yes, a group life thing.
Group health thing.
Yes, because we are huge in number. I actually didn't know that we're this large musicians. So we're able to negotiate a reduced rate for group life and all that. If you're a P-Man member, you get opportunity to have 4 members of your family to be looked after with insurance. Now, the insurance is basic malaria, bed rest, drip, but once it comes to critical ailment like kidney and that will require approval again from from ESCOs and all that. But the regular, you go to the hospital or your wife is pregnant, those ones have been taken care of. That's the welfare.
That's the basic one.
That's the basic one. Then the life insurance is for death and accident. In case of you have permanent disability. If it's not death, permanent disability. So that there's a particular money that will go to you for permanent disability, and there's a particular money that will go to the member of your family for that. That is for life insurance. Then for pension plan, once you're 65, 70, and you've submitted your application that you are retiring from active performance. Yeah, it happens, a whole lot of them.
They submit to the union?
They submit to the union that they are retiring from active performance. So once they submit that, the process will go on, and the particular musician will be getting 100,000 monthly.
Really?
Yes.
You're saying that P-Man has that kind of...
P-Man
has that kind of policy in place?
P-Man has more than that. P-Man is likened to American Union structure. That's the way we built it. And if you've been to our edifice, our office, that is the standard. Because we have Afrobeat that has taken over the world. So these people started visiting. Like the first week we opened, we got people from America, people from Sweden and all that. It's been happening to be hosting them. So if they come, because I've been to their own offices, if they come, they're like, how did you guys get this idea? How did you build it? I remember the American people, entourage that came said, this is more like their own office.
Are you kidding?
In Nigeria. So that's what we're trying to do. We're not seeing ourselves as, I don't like using the word, we're not seeing ourselves as a third world country.
As far as PMAN goes.
As far as PMAN goes, you know, as Nigeria, because we have the highest natural resources. But I keep saying management has been the issue. But
that's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So that's the mentality that my team and I are working with. We are not seeing ourselves as lesser people or we're from the third world. We're seeing ourselves as God has given us everything, so we need to find a way to manage it properly.
But you see, you and your team seem to have come in with a vision. That vision we're going to discuss when we take this break. After this break, we'll come back and discuss it. Please stay tuned. Yes, welcome back. Pretty Okafor, PMAN president, is still my guest. Your team has a vision. What's the broad vision?
Putting a geopolitical structure for the music industry. What we're doing in Lagos right now and what we're doing in Abuja, before I leave, I'm sure we would have imputed it in the remaining 4 geopolitical zones. Lagos has a music academy, right? So where musicians will come and learn rudiments of music and also business of music. So we're having that in Abuja, and we're having that in the remaining 4 geopolitical zones because we want to be able to match the international popularity that's already going before our brand of music. We're doing that so that musicians can have access to the facilities.
Okay.
Right. And these other facilities will also have the radio stations inclusive in these other facilities. That means at the end, yes, it will be a network. So it's a planned stuff. We are also building affordable homes for musicians.
Affordable homes?
Yes, in these geopolitical zones. We've already started. It's not I told you about the radio. Radio is already on.
Yeah.
Is on your Google Play Store now, but the equipment have arrived, so it's set up. So whatever I'm saying is what is going to, is a legacy, what is going to be there after my tenure, after the tenure of my other parties.
You're sounding like somebody who has made up his mind that, okay, after this period, I'm not going to be directly involved in administration of the union again.
Yeah, because we've trained a whole lot of people.
How many years have you spent?
The years of the fight and the years of the settlement, or okay,
I've done of you being in the saddle.
I just done my first.
So how many more years do you have?
I'm supposed to round up by next year.
Is it just one term?
No.
So they can still bring you back now. You see, you're sounding like, oh no, I've had enough of this wahala.
Yeah,
I want to go and face something else.
No, because it took way too much on me, and
good things don't come easy.
And because I was smart enough, I was able to juggle my business and PMAN, but PMAN needs like 100% concentration.
Keep juggling.
And we were able to. But I also have my first vice. There's a first vice, there's a second vice. There's media. There's Rugged Man, there's Asha Gangali, Zaki Aziz, Sonny Neji, Two-Face, MI. So these guys, Terry G. So these guys are learning. They've seen the successes that we've been able to achieve. So they are learning. They can go from wherever. I won't decide on the next tenor.
No,
yes,
I will just wait. I will wait and say to you that there is the possibility that they will say, all right, let's have 4 more years of your time or 5 more years and all that. Because, you see, those geopolitical zones that you want to develop, they need the drive of someone who is the visionary. Apparently, you're the visionary. Yeah. They are supportive of the vision. They've bought into it. You can't leave it midway. You can't. So maybe I should start on their behalf, appealing to you, not to think of going anywhere. Because
no, sir, but I think I'm working with some of the smartest people in the industry.
I agree with that. I agree with that, and I congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
I congratulate you. Now, there's something about developing the music industry in Nigeria. You've spoken a little bit about it, but I want to particularly mention the issue of instrumentation, instrumentalists, singers going to learn how to sing, and then you said something about the business end of the music industry. How can we sustain our global attention now if we don't intentionally train musicians and hold up musicianship as a way of life?
Like you mentioned, sir, the building those structures was because we wanted to sustain the growth of Nigerian music. The growth of, I keep telling people, is what God gave us, the growth of Afrobeat. Now, it's there, but we need to sustain it for the next 30 years. And sustaining it means we need to put these structures in place. So those structures are coming with music academy, music school, business academy, business school, business of music school, meaning you've gone to learn the rudiment, playing the guitars and all that, learn to sing, write songs, but you now need to learn how to manage your talent, how to monetize every aspect of your talent, how you could coordinate the business of touring, the business of releases, record releases and all that. So that's the actual side, and that will create another empire, another brainwave of young people paying 100% attention to that business of music. So which is going to create the sustainability for our industry and the Afrobeat genre.
Yeah, but you mentioned something about managing the business of your talent, or the business of your talent. It's not everybody who can manage themselves, you know.
Yeah.
There must also be an intentional attempt to develop trust in others who can help manage.
Now, if maybe not all the superstars, A-listers, B-listers, and C-listers will have time to go to the school, right? But other music managers, business, your road manager and all that, they will go to the school. So now we're creating more employment. You, the artist, the talent, will employ those people that are already be satisfied as gurus when it comes to business of music management and employ them.
Okay.
So that extends, that also sustains your popularity, that also sustains your touring, that also sustains your monetization in every aspect of the business. Okay. So these people might not have the time to go sit in a classroom and learn all that. But the the road managers, the artist managers, the tour managers can learn. And now the main artists will start employing them. So it's also expanding and creating avenue for more employment.
Okay. And this you will do in all the 6 geopolitical zones? 6
We're already doing it in 2.
In 2.
So we'll do it in the remaining 4.
In the remaining 4. All right. We'll take a break now. When we're back, we're going to visit the Bolanle days of Pretty Okafor. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. I still have Pretty Okafor. By the way, why do they call you Pretty?
My name is actually Pretty Roland Okafor. I'm actually from a royal home.
Okay.
But my first name, Pretty, is actually my native name. It's Machuku. It means beauty of God.
Yeah, no.
But my mother preferred
Pretty
instead of beauty.
Okay. Now, welcome back. We've been in the studio whilst we took a break. Now, Bolanle was a monumental hit of Junior and Pretty. It took you outside Nigeria, like you said. That's the album. But what would you say was responsible for the hit?
Because we were dealing with the commoners. It was the first time we bridged the gap between the young and the old, between the rich and the poor, between the high class and the low class. So everybody could understand the message. Everybody could understand the rhymes. Everybody could understand pidgin and even the vernacular, because we use the popular vernaculars. So people could associate with it. We didn't create music for one particular section of Nigeria, one particular section of people. So we created music for everybody. So it was a drive that the music was for all individuals. But the truth is that we didn't even, me and Gina, we didn't even know that it was going to be that big. We didn't even know that people will accept it, because before we did Monica, we've been discouraged. Our demo tape has been thrown out from, from, like I used Polygram, went to Polygram, and they threw our demo tape like 5 times out from the window. And they were like, what are you guys doing? You want to do something better. But when our record label, Storm Record, discovered that this brand of music can actually sell, because they are talking to the crowd. And when they now ventured into it, releasing our first work, which is that Monica, it sold everywhere. It had sold them. They couldn't manage the hype. So they had to broker a deal for Polygram now to come into
the Polygram that became Premier Music.
Yeah, the Polygram that became Premier Music. The same Polygram that threw away our demo.
They now came back.
So it was, so that's why even with live, I do not take no for an answer. And I don't believe that to say, yeah, it's not possible. It's not in my dictionary. I don't talk about it. Just work towards it. Consistency. Keep working. It's going to work.
Okay, so that's like a life lesson for you, and it's something that you used to drive yourself,
Yes.
drive your vision.
Yes.
Now tell me about the day the Peaman House was opened. What was that like for you and for King Sunny Ade?
Was us. But again, he came because he wanted to witness. He wanted to be sure. And it's actually the first time I saw King when he came in, actually in my office, and he was speaking to me, and I saw King was
emotional
about, he said, man, not to Pretty and his team or to Pretty, yeah. So the excitement and again the surprise, like I like pulling surprises at people. When you think it's not going to happen, I like proving you wrong. So it keep happening. I'm excited because the older people are excited. If you get into the gallery of the foyer of Peaman, you see the past Peaman leaders. There you see the legends who are on a particular wall. You won't see us there. You won't see me and my escorts because we're serving.
Because there is a better Peaman now, there is the fear of continuation or continuity. How are you going to ensure? You know, I remember we were saying something like, don't run off, but there will be term or tenure limitation whenever that is not wasted.
Sustainability. While managing Peaman, we're also training a whole lot of people. Fortunately, they've learned the structure of my business ethic. So this range of people that are working in Peaman now know about integrity and transparency. And that's the watchword. That's what has kept the union moving forward. And over the years, I've tested them in a couple of other things to handle. And I know that's why I said I'm fortunate to have the best brain, the best hand, the most sincere people working with me at this time. Along the line, a whole lot of people fell out of us because, again, you see, again, when you're sincere and you're working in the truth and spirit, negativities will be falling off. So only the truth remains. So that's what has happened. I'm not scared. If I formally, I would say, if I leave Peaman, they go sell the property. The radio station, they will sell it. But right now, if I leave, they can sustain it for the next, because there's a structure, there's a program, there's a rudiment of training that we've been able to put everybody through, and they're still going through it. So the structure has been monitored. That's why the structure has been monitored. Nobody can come in and do anything there because there's a trust that is monitoring the structure that's going on.
Okay. Okay, now, so you talk about development of trust, development of musicianship and trainings. Who are your partners for these academies that you are setting up?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
We have 10 strings.
Okay.
10 strings is, should I use the words? I think the biggest music institution for the younger age.
Okay.
Now, yeah, so we're partnering with 10 strings for...
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria, yes.
Okay.
We're partnering with 10 strings for that. We're partnering with an U.S. creative industry business group. We're partnering with a Canadian business while in managing and regulating the industry for us.
Okay, but you talked of banks. Do banks support music now?
They weren't supporting music before, but right now they are supporting music. They are supporting music because of what we've been able to create. I could tell you a bit. If you're a card carrying member, if you're a registered member of Peaman, and you need a loan to do some particular things, and you go through your application to the ESCOs and it's approved, the bank will give you the loan. The bank
because you're guaranteeing it.
Yes, because they are not going to come to that particular musician anywhere he is in the state, in 36 states. They are dealing with the ESCOs. For the ESCOs to approve, that means they know that person, they know they can. The ESCOs are going to monitor the growth of that person. So the banks, we have that agreement with the banks, and there's arrangement where we and the bank also monitor what they're doing with the money.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about the membership. You said you believe that you're over 5 million.
We are over 5 million. We're over 5 million because I break it down. I break it down a bit. I'll use the example of Burna Boy. Burna Boy is on tour. Now, Burna Boy is not on tour with himself alone or himself and his band people. No, Burna Boy is on tour with his band people, his dancers, his management team. When I say his management team, his road manager, his music manager, his top manager. He's on the road with his fashion designer. He's on tour with his makeup artist.
Is the fashion designer also a member of PIMA?
No, if he's a team, wardrobe, use the word wardrobe manager. He's the wardrobe manager. So so wardrobe manager that works with an artist is a member of PIMA.
He's a member of PIMA.
So
must be registered.
Yes. So when he's on tour with about 60, 100, 120 people, they are all PIMA members. So when we're designing this thing like how many years back, I was wondering how come we're this much? How do we break it down until we started doing a couple of researches? At the time me and Junior started, just me and Junior were I think we're about 22 or 24. Yes, on the road. Because our
the
Peace Band.
Okay, the act was 2.
The act was 2, but our band, another 14.
Yes.
Now you now have your manager, have your
road manager,
have your wardrobe manager, and all that. So everything was about 22 or so. So we're going on tour. That was then. So these guys go on tour with more larger people. That's why I keep telling people, they will say, the crew that are going on film sets and all that are huge. I said, no. If 5 major artists go on tour, they're already employing like about 500 people, or over 1,000 people. So you understand how. I'm also giving you the statistics so you understand how we're able to make money from purchasing.
Towards purchasing.
And
then sustaining your insurance policies.
Sustain our insurance policy and also be able to do our license for the radio and purchase the equipment for the radio.
Okay. So when are you likely to come on the air with your radio station? That's in the Lagos area?
Yes, in the Lagos area. Right now it's being installed.
Okay.
So all the equipment are in. So it's been installed, I think with, what do you call it?
Before the end of the year?
Yeah, it should be before the end of the year because they are coming to do the inspection and all that.
Inspection, okay. Okay, and then the zonal offices that you're planning, or let's not use the term offices, zonal operations.
Zonal operations, yes.
You understand me?
Geopolitical operations.
Geopolitical. The control is still going to be from the head of
It's going to be centralized.
Okay.
We don't want to leave any loophole in operations, right? Since we've gotten it right, we want to keep it that way. Okay. Because once there's a loophole, they take advantage of that. So what we've been trying to do since we got into PMAN is to close all the gaps and close all the loopholes. So the control is still going to be from Lagos. Even we're having an office in Abuja, the control is still going to be from Lagos. So whatever that's happening in Abuja, happening in these other 4 geopolitical zones will be managed from the head office, Lagos.
And all the academies that will be over the 6 geopolitical zones, they're going to be running the same program?
They're going to be running the same program. Now, excuse me, because people in Calabar can't come to Lagos. Because if they come to Lagos, they need to...
It will be expensive for them.
So that's why we're taking the schools and the business...
As close to them as possible.
Close to them. Now, also understand that we're we have a huge number that we're controlling. So if we say everybody should come to Lagos or go to Abuja, there won't be space for learning. So that's why we're creating those geopolitical zone schools that are close to where they reside.
Yeah. Now, if we go back to your personal business, you from a musician, a performing musician, you morphed into a consultant. What do you do now?
I still run it. I still run my promotion outfit. I still run my marketing communication firm. I have a technology firm. If you Google Go Create Africa, I'm the one of Go Create Africa, so I still run my technology firm.
Go Trade Africa.
Go Create.
Go Create Africa.
One action